We're live. What's up, everybody? This is Carrick with ACG, and I'm here with Abzi doing the Best Gaming Podcast 465. I hope you have a good Wednesday. Have you had a good week? Abzi?
Me? Yeah. Have I had a good week? Yeah, it's been pretty cool. I've been sick for a couple days. I don't know if it's because I'm changing diets again or something's up. So I've been tired and a bit sick, but it's been going well. I started a new show. I just found out about it because it's an Apple TV show called Mythic Quest, and it's pretty interesting. There's stuff I like, stuff I don't like.
MMO, they're programming an MMO, right? Isn't that the one where they're
basically World of Warcraft? And you're basically looking into like Blizzard, but I think it's Ubisoft works with them to make it. So I think that's because you see a lot of cutscenes from like For Honor and Assassin's Creed and stuff like that, and the intermissions and stuff. But they did show last episode. They showed that this guy was trying to convince this other girl that cutscenes are actually more powerful than gameplay, and vice versa. And he showed her a Red Dead Redemption cutscene, except they use different voices for it. So I wonder if there's something there with the legality of it all. Yeah. But they showed that a scene towards the end of Red Dead. Yeah. It's nice. There's some of it is like, I don't know if they're making fun of content creators or if it's just the most extreme hyperbolic version of it. But there's some stuff where it's like you're either unaware or you're too aware of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and I think that for people, because that's a slightly older show where, a couple years old. And so I think that at that time, anybody who watched content creators or streamers was probably sat back in their chair and we're all, what am I watching right now?
Yeah, so and I'm only in season one, too.
You're only in season one, yeah. Because it definitely got big there for a while. I think for whatever reason, it's still big, but it's like the chaff is at such a high level that you don't notice if somebody does anything crazy anymore. Like, it used to be such a thing. I think one of the big ones was Dr. Disrespect going to YouTube. Like, that's sort of, it sort of leveled it out a little bit, like, because he was so big, and I would not hear about anybody else. Or if I did, it was like people pretending to be him. There was a lot of YouTube and Twitch streamers that were like wearing clothes that look like baby Dr. Disrespect. Like you saw a lot of stuff. And when he went to YouTube, I don't see him much anymore. I don't see him much. I don't see him. I see usually normal streamers now.
Yeah, there's some stuff though that really they hit close to home with like, oh, let's go. They go to like TwitchCon. Well, it's called StreamerCon or whatever, and they try to poach streamers to market the game for them by paying them or whatever the hell. So there's a lot of stuff that's very, very topical for sure. But I wonder if I'm gonna see any like Dr. Disrespect or anything. For now, they just have the streamer who is like this 14-year-old kid living in his mom's basement, rating games with buttholes. Like buttholes is his like 5 butthole. This game gets 5 buttholes, 4 buttholes. So it's very over the top, top hyperbolic in that sense. But you know what I mean.
Let's see what else has happened this week. We've got a bunch of news. There's Fallout news, Starfield news, Gray Zone. I can't remember that. Gray Zone Warfare. Yeah, there's Gray Zone Warfare stuff that's coming out. It sort of involves the Tarkov devs, that kind of stuff, or the Tarkov game, and the back and forth between new titles trying to take advantage of that. We also have a very cool Everspace 2 expansion that they put out for free. It's on Unreal 5. They switched everything over to Unreal 5. It's called Incursions. It's got like in-game content, changed to in-game content. Everspace 2 just looks phenomenal, man. Like, I was looking back at it just like, damn. I mean, and it looked good on Unreal 4. I don't know how much better I would say it even looks on Unreal 5. But it's cool that they put a bunch of in-game content and sort of mid-game content, because the story starts, while you're playing the game, it starts at the end or at the middle end. But it's got a bunch of new items, new gear. It's hard to go back to it because, there are a lot of games that I want to go back to. But I did turn it on and play it for a bit, and so did some of the people in the Discord, and it seems like they're really happy with it. And that came out yesterday, I think. New ship parts and stuff. Ship customization always.
I love that game. That game is so good. Yeah.
Yeah, that game went for I feel like a long time where it came out and I don't know if it got lost or anything, but it just didn't get talked about too much. It was just out. And then all of a sudden, I talked to somebody and they had played 50 hours in it. And I think you even streamed it, or maybe we just talked about it streaming it in Discord, or maybe just talked about it. But yeah.
It was a
and I
meaty
think
game.
Johnny did it.
Had so much to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there was a bunch. It was definitely a title that paid, or that you got paid for, or you got a return for what you paid. Like
for sure.
very easily. Super chat this is from the patron super chat. This is from Glimpy, not Gimpy. Glimpy, here we go. How often do you all go back to find a game you may have missed? I search for games I may miss about once a month. Yeah, man, it's coming up right now a lot because this is not a busy time. I actually found myself looking in Steam last night for like 3 hours trying to find a game. Just like, did I? And it's a lot of times it's games I've owned where I look through the Steam list and go, I haven't turned this on. Yeah. Well, I mean, there you go with like Endless Space, or I mean, not Endless Space, but Everspace. Do you actually go back and look in your library? Or do you go back and look on, like by genre on Steam or Game Pass or anything like that?
I have my Steam divided. Basically my whole library is divided into collections. So let's see here. Yeah, so the collections aren't just genre; they're kind of genre, but
they're your versions of your collections.
My versions, exactly. Like for example, I have one called Controller Adventure. So because sometimes I just want to play with a controller and chill back and play an adventure game, you know what I mean? Versus like a first or like a mouse and keyboard adventure. So those are just like different collections based on what I'm in the mood for. So I have like Craftival, which is crafting survival, CRPG, FPP immersive, which is like first person immersive games like Metro and Fallout and the Skyrim and stuff like that. Indie delights, multiplayer, puzzles, PvP, roguelike, scary, simulation, single player shooter, strategy, turn-based, third person perspective, action adventure, third person RPG, VR, weeb, and then ZZZ, which currently has Sophie's Dice and Werewolf the Apocalypse, Heart of the Forest. It's just stuff that I didn't know where to put it.
Oh, right.
So those are basically
like
my collections.
Games that put you to sleep or games that are good to go to sleep too?
No, I just
like an endless runner or a game where you just hit a button and it goes through the entire level on its own. I don't have any of those. I don't have any genre lists that I know of, so searching through my Steam is a little bit messy, but I also have multiple Steam accounts, and I remember I was going through the I think it was the beta Steam account, the Steam account that I played betas on, closed betas, and going in there and finding titles that I just don't even remember playing the closed beta, and then went back and looked, and it was the time when a lot of MMOs were coming out, the MMOs that are like, here's an MMO, and then they die, and then it dies. Here's a survival game. Here's the Raft. Those kind. Well, not the Raft, because that stuck around, but those moments where for like 2 years it was a big deal that those were all coming out. I found a bunch on there that, dude, I mean, it's weird to look back at some games I thought were going to be really big and they're not, and then other games are just plucking along. Got like a couple thousand players every day, just sort of going out there. Even on MMOs, it must be weird to play on it. Like, let's say you're an MMO fan playing 3 MMOs, and there's less people in that than there are in Division 1 or something like that.
There's two kinds of those where it's like a small community. There's one type of game, for example, like Fallout 76, where you have a community that they would just want new players, and they do anything. They give you like 10 stim packs. It's like, welcome to our game. They want more people. And then you got something like Mortal Online 2, where it's like they just if they see any new players, they're just gonna kill them and take all their shit.
Oh,
and
damn,
it's
really?
brutal out there, you know what I mean?
That is the opposite. Fallout, here's the thing about Fallout's community. In some way, it mimics one of the vaults that makes you suspect the nice people are bad people.
They're
you go into Fallout and
something.
everybody's like, here's stim packs. Join us. Do you want to help? And you're like, I don't know, man. This seems too good to be true. Something here is going weird. Oh yeah, once a week we sacrifice somebody, but other than that, we're good. And you're like, damn it, I knew there had to be a catch. Reading super chats and the welcomes to everybody. Thanks for joining in on the podcast. Sam Torres says thank ACG. It's Wednesday. That is true. I'm happy to have gotten somewhat through this week. Gunner says Bethesda trying to make good content in fewer than 2 decades. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We are going to talk about it. I'm excited to see what they can do when it comes to, let's be honest, we're going to joke about super groups, Bethesda, Obsidian, NXL getting together, having a confab. I'm going to joke about it, and I'll consistently hope for it, but I don't think we will see that. but we could definitely see growth.
The most I could
see
areas. Is like how Microsoft's trying to push a Fallout game, so they'll just kind of be like, hey, you guys worked on, like, you can support them in some way, but probably not a super group giant game. Yeah.
I mean, if I'm going to joke about it forever, I'm going to talk about it forever.
I'd want
and I'm going to wish
it's
for
like
it forever.
Dream. Yeah,
but
for sure.
And it's the same thing I would say with Sony. They've got some amazing teams. We talked about it. It's like, why is Insomniac not working with these guys? Or why is this not happening with this? So I'm going to joke about it with all companies, but definitely for them. Jacob Reed, $10 super chat. I found you on Spotify. I always wish I could chip in here. So here we are. Love the content, boys. Do you think Bethesda game issues come from making multi-plat games rather than exclusive to one console or PC? I personally believe they had issues when they weren't console. Like they were doing stuff prior to being on console. I mean, Arena wasn't on console, and Arena is one of their poorer games. Then there was Daggerfall and Morrowind, and I believe so. Morrowind was PC. I loved Morrowind. Was Daggerfall day and date? Sorry, was Morrowind day and date for the Xbox?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Was it day and date? It's a good question. I don't think so, because we've seen other companies nail it. I think it's their engine. Their engine has so many memory pointers. We've talked about this before, but it's unbelievable how much interaction they have. I don't know if you saw. Well, we're going to talk about it in a bit. But that Gray Zone game, the moment I went into it, I noticed the one thing it was missing was interaction in almost anything. It was and I'm not saying it has to have it. I'm just saying because I played Starfield and I'm playing Fallout a little bit. I'm playing Starfield right now. I'm so accustomed to being able to, but not having to grab things and pick up things and walk around things. And then you get to this moment where you go into I went into a building in Gray Zone. I'm just going to call it Gray Zone because I'm always going to forget the warfare part. But I go into Gray Zone, and I don't know if you've noticed this, but it's like the building is set up, but everything feels glued to the walls.
Yeah,
everything feels
super static.
Yeah, super static. It's like just.
Yeah. Plus, it's not like Control where things you can shoot and move and
right, because there's no physics to at least interact with the game world.
For sure.
Yeah. So currently for me, especially Starfield coming out just for Xbox so far, I don't think I think when they switch to the type of CPUs they have. It's just a mini PC. I think their issues stem from them being a different game developer that took a long time to make their game, too. Starfield was in development for, 8 years, I guess?
Full development for maybe 6 or something.
Yeah. And the weird thing is, too, Abzi, what released now fits games prior to No Man's Sky. Or like, without No Man's Sky, there'd be a slightly different conversation around everything. But it's like No Man's Sky is such a weird title because it started out bad. And I bet you, if I were Bethesda and I was working on something, I'd be like, okay, we got our thing. And then they just kept patching it. Like, it's a weird situation to be in. There's not many games like that. Elite, I guess. Did you heard me talking about the Elite big battles, the factions and shit? That stuff's...
Yeah, for sure.
That stuff's awesome.
I still think Starfield still filled the void. I don't think there's another sandbox space RPG in the market. So.
Yeah, it's its own thing, but it's its own thing with the same caveats No Man's Sky has, which is like background combat. So it's like I think its biggest weakness
was towards. I mean, maybe not as much Oblivion, but certainly with Skyrim and Fallout, it became way more. Well, and Fallout 3 to an extent, it became Bethesda became known way more for its landmarks and world building and exploration. So when making a space game, they wanted all that to still be there. And that's just a tricky thing to fix without having repeatable stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also you go into your first new IP, so you have the lore and then the fan lore, and then the fan lore that may be lore, but nobody's going to tell you it's not lore. And that's 25 years of whatever. And then you have the same thing with Skyrim with Elder. I'm going to call it Elder Scrolls. Yes. Okay. Sorry. I got it. Last week we were looking at the Minecraft guy. He had tried to make a game called, what was it, Scrolls or something, and got the and Bethesda went after him. And so I get that in my brain that it's just called Scrolls. But you look at like Elder Scrolls Online, all that kind of stuff. The fanfic is super deep. The fic itself, like just the fiction itself, is insanely deep. And then Starfield starting out new. Starfield has a different tack to it in how it wanted to do its fiction, which doesn't make some sense sometimes. Go ahead.
One thing I did like a lot about its world, one thing I want to give it credit to is something we've been complaining about games for a while, where it's always like the has been, or I come to this world and it's post-apocalyptic, or everyone used to live here, everyone used to. What was nice about Starfield is peering into people's lives while civilization is, you know, booming, and there's like just people living and stuff like that, which I appreciated. Plus, a lot of the quests, especially the faction quests, went hard. They went really deep, and they went back way more into their RPG roots than Fallout 4. They went back there's a lot of choice-based stuff, and they really pushed RPG way more than prior, where they streamlined it a lot. But then it presented new issues with the newer fans when it came to exploration and obviously repeatable stuff. Yeah, like I said.
Yeah, I don't want them to go away from. I don't care what engine they go to. I don't want them to go away from the interactivity. Like, I don't. I mean, that would actually really bother me to go into their next Elder Scrolls game, whatever it's going to be, and they've changed engines, so therefore they don't have that interactivity and physics on an apple, and thousands of apples in a bowl, and people able to steal that kind of stuff. I don't want them to go away.
But permanence, like being able to store things places, and have it stay there.
Yeah, because in my ship, I have a room that is filled with ore because it can't fit anywhere else, and I just go in and drop 1,000 things, then run back
and
out.
They stay there.
And they stay there. But with Fallout, I was replaying, or not replaying, but going back and like, I didn't really want to mod Fallout. I just wanted to see this update, and it's not really a PC update. That's like the one thing you can take from it. They supposedly fix bloat on settlements, and we can talk about the settlement system because I know a lot of people don't want that to be in the next game. I for sure do, but I want it to be. I want it to make sense in Elder Scrolls. So if they put a settlement system somewhere, it needs to make sense. I don't have so many issues with 4 like a lot of people do. To me, it was like, you can build it if you want, make you feel sort of cool, put some people together, what have you. But I don't want that to go away, man. I don't want there's something mad scientist in Fallout. Like, I'm grabbing all this trash and building something, and I sort of dig it, and I feel like if that settlement system wasn't there, I wouldn't feel like there was as much cool stuff I could sort of put around. Starfield tried it. They don't have you've got your house, but I can tell you, I haven't returned to the house in Starfield in forever. Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
I don't even remember where.
Basically,
the ship is your house, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to even remember, and the ship. You know that. I mean, I'm not saying you didn't pay attention, but you do know that in the house you can outfit it and everything, and do
I did.
And a lot of people don't because the ship is their house, right?
Yeah,
the ship is their house.
Absolutely.
So they have 2 systems for upgrade, really, like because the ship is so big. But engine wise, let's hope they make some kind of improvement that removes the load. That's what they need.
The load in what sense?
Seamless, I think. So seamless loading.
Yes. The seamless thing is one big thing they really have to improve.
And you see the pop in No Man's Sky still. When you fly out of space, or fly out of the planet, there's this moment where everything goes like, boom, and pops in. So there's a load there going on in some transitional way. But
it's still better, right?
It's still better. It doesn't break
even if
your
the loading
immersion.
time is like 1 second. Mine was like half a second to a second. It's still there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which makes a difference for sure. And the thing is, and I didn't hate the procedural generation approach. I just I guess a cool compromise I would have liked is to have bigger, maybe regions that are curated, like kind of a little bit bigger places that you can explore and stuff. That's all.
More variations in the caves. This is all stuff that is harder to notice in a Fallout or something like that, where if they had gone procedure, I think the debris. See, that's the thing. They're going for clean NASA punk. Fallout is going for atomic punk, I guess, or atomic whatever, and then it's all debris. So one world is messy, and one world, by very definition of the fiction, is clean. And so you're like, I don't know how you do that. But I would say I adjusted my Starfield game to have the points of interest be the same distance, but the actual world, there's an I change you can do to increase the debris in the world and increase. So there's more rocks on a planet surface like the moon. Instead of a big rock and a couple rocks, there's thousands. And you can adjust this scale up and down. It's called, like, in the Skyrim INI, it's like POE _ not spread, but it has something to do with that. And I found it a couple weeks ago and was messing around with it, and it makes forests look like forests. But of course, FPS. And so that helps those things. But the actual, I wish their maps were, and this is the same problem No Man's Sky has, shitty outposts, man. Everywhere you go there. Elite tried with their ground stuff and sort of failed. So I think there's a weakness there in all of them are having some issue figuring out a way to do space and ground. And I mean, every one of these games is having...
There's so much ground to cover.
Yeah, or you do Star Citizens and you just make massive cities and somehow you make massive planets. Yeah, but there's only 7 or a couple planets in
and
Star
I feel like
Citizen.
the only way to justify that is to have it be live service. Is if you want like a lot of locations and you want constant stream of revenue and adding.
That's got its own ugliness, all right there. Another super chat. What's up, MK Bandit? $20 super chat for Baron. Woof woof. He'll know what it means. He will know, and I appreciate it. The dogs have been a part of the podcast since day one, so appreciate it. I miss Ming, but Baron's a good replacement. He's a good dog. What were you going to say?
Another thing, when people say like, hey, they should have made 1,000 planets, they should have made one solar system, it's still gonna be the same. You realize that one planet alone, they'll have to procedurally generate a lot of stuff.
Yeah, see, that's the thing, right? Yeah, one planet would still
the amount of planets doesn't make a difference. It's just the amount of curated content versus.
Personally, I'm absolutely happy we have that many planets. That's one of my favorite parts. But I do think that the procedural generation cells they choose from, it's sort of like if you play a D&D game or you play a choose your own adventure game from the old days when you're a kid. There's usually 2 choices per page. There's like, do you want to fight or run? Starfield's about 3. What I would want is for them to figure out a way to make the Habs very different looking, a different procedural, and check that you haven't seen that kind of Hab in a while. See, that's the other thing. Give some markers,
that's a big thing.
Put them in a save game and be like, Carrick has seen Hab 1 through 7B, so now we want to ship him C and B mixed, C, and then that way you go in, you don't see the same whiteboard. That was the other thing that they really did sort of screw up.
The same exact structures.
The same whiteboards? Yeah. I mean, I know what they're trying to do, but it's still like, some modder could probably fix that. Who knows what memory allocation that is. Modders don't care. That's the difference.
And another big problem was that for a lot of levels, you saw the same stuff, but once you reached certain thresholds, new locations were getting added to that pool. But some people were just not seeing those new locations because they saw like 10 of the same thing and they were like, fuck it, I just don't want to interact with that system anymore.
Or N+, where it changes
a lot.
Let's talk about Fallout. So the update came out. It stretched the widescreen, which people were pissed about, rightfully so. It was sort of a janky and not unknown way of doing widescreen. This is like frustrating me that they're not the only ones who've done this weird stretch the HUD to do a widescreen version, and then people turn it on thinking it's full. I don't have widescreen, but I'm going to fight for people who do, because there are some people who I know who play widescreen, like Reg, who's got, squint vision. I don't know what his is, but I swear to God, it's like a Cylon eye in Battlestar Galactica. Because it's wide. It's he told me the what do you call it? So it's ultra. You have your
ultra wide.
It's like ultra wide or whatever. I don't know, but it sounded like that when he explained it to me. And they got shafted. And that just doesn't make a lot of sense that we got some of the other stuff we got, and you don't get I know the PC version wasn't the real patch. They fixed settlements and stuff, but I'd like to have seen them. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Like, come on. If you're gonna do it, and throw it out there, and proper ultra-wide support is not as easy as people think, because we see other companies having difficulty with it too. I don't know what it entails. I'm sure it entails a lot of weird things I'm not thinking of. But, I mean, at some point, man, if you're going to do a patch and you're going to call it the next-gen patch. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You are definitely
rendering
more depending on, if you're going from like a 32 2K to like those ultra-wides that are, I don't know the res. FOV. I think it turns to 4K anyway, but yeah, it's weird. I don't know. The idea of having super wide. Are you ever going to go to ultra wide?
No. I can't. It's too much real estate for me. I like the 16:9 or even 16:10.
Let me tell you. There we go. My favorite, 16:10.
Yes, me too.
Wow,
I got
dude.
because of my laptop, man. My laptop is 1610. I was like, wow, this is a really good. I like this ratio a lot.
I loved it. I was buying them off eBay from like rip-off companies, you know, like their name is like Washahong Dehong -7. And I was buying them because they were 1610, and I got to tell you, going 16:9 took me a while. 1610 feels like you can sit in front of it, not worry about the looking to each edge, but you also have just a little bit more of that vertical, man. I like that a lot. I did go to 16:9 for everything. What was 16:10? Tablet or laptop 16:10? Are laptops normally now still 16:10, or are there? Oh,
I think there are those wide ones.
The
Mine
Legion
is like a bit more square.
The Legion is portrait. Yeah.
That's my laptop is a Legion.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. That sort of proves that point. And then we look at the console versions of Fallout. Impressive updates behind the scenes. Definitely you got the FPS improvement, but you ran in well, we'll talk about the PC again in a second because we can talk about your 60 FPS issue. But for the consoles, it was an improvement, I think, just for smoothness. And the weird thing is, we always say it's much harder to make it 30 to 60 on the same hardware than people think. And so their next-gen update was, I think, focused more on the frame rate than it was anything else. And then I got a lot of people saying, well, not much looks different. And I'm like, okay, does that bring us back to the conversation that the difference between 30 and 60 in a game like that isn't as big as people think? Because if you're saying it's not much different, it's like, I thought the big complaint was the game was at 30, not that, let's say, it looks the way it looks.
People always say they want frames over graphics and stuff, don't they?
I mean, we hear it a lot. We're going to notice that Starfield's got an update. We'll talk about that in a second, where they're adding those 40 and 60 VRR, which I think
interesting. What does that entail?
It's like just going to be the same. It sounds like it's going to be about the same resolution, everything for the 40 VRR, but then the 60 most likely will turn down the graphics a little bit, to get that on consoles. But
that's cool.
The Series X, they said, Series X will be doing that. I think they made it pretty clear that 60 at minimum will be the one that's going on the Series X. I think Series S can easily do, a 2K version, 1440p or something would be nice to see. But they did some updates. People seem happy. I mean, they not with the update itself, but they seem happy with the frame rate increase. The best thing was it was broken. This is the best thing, man. It was broken, and Jay Reaper was in Discord going, man, this feels the same if it's quality or performance. It feels really smooth no matter what. And then we realized the next day.
He was on 30?
No, he was on 60. Both stay. You can't, at the time at least, if you switch from quality to performance, it stayed at 60.
Oh, it didn't change anything?
And it didn't change anything. Yeah, and there were people going like, man, this feels about the same for each one. It's like, yeah, it actually was the same. But thank you very much for the super chats, guys. Like I said, that does help the channel. Also, if you get a chance, I would love for you to go to iTunes and rate us. That does help very much, having iTunes ratings and Spotify ratings if you can. Let's see. NC says, Bethesda makes really big, complex games, and it's a sacrifice I'm okay with making. Terrence says, it's crazy to think they can generate a planet location and save everything that you can move or kill. Yeah, that is true.
They can save up to 5 points on each planet, I think. Like 5.
Well, you mean 5 what?
5 point. If you go into like a random planet, other than the things they already have there, you can just choose where to land, and you generate the little point of interest. You generate a square. I think that stays until you have more than 5. So if you do a 6th one, it'll delete the first one you had. Yeah.
From what I understand, if you've gone to the point of interest, it stays forever though. So if I land and I go to 2 of the points of interest there, no matter how many other point of interest I touch on different cells on that planet, if I go back to those 2, they're saved. They're set up to save.
That's very interesting.
There's a lot going on in the game, regardless of my complaints on it. But yeah, Fallout 60 FPS on the PC has an issue still. If you go above it, are you still getting the weird physics issues if you try to go in Fallout?
See, now I don't know if something, you never know if it's like an issue with the game or an issue with my PC or something. But I never tried to go back to it once I crashed a couple times. And I don't know if that's because I deleted the iPreset interval, because for some reason their VSync gives me input lag. So I would have to either wait. I'll probably have to wait for the Fallout script extender with I think it's the ENB or something that makes it all work well. I'll probably have to wait for that. So for now, I'm doing the Tale of Two Wastelands thing, the Fallout 3 in New Vegas, which still has some crashes, but it seems to be pretty stable for now. I do know, it's a large thing. It's 2 games in one, so you never know if it's stable in one spot. It's probably gonna crash and burn in another spot.
Now, but the difference between Tale of Two Wastelands and, let's say, an official mod is what? It's just that you can still travel between the 2 games in quick travel, but you can't walk to the new place in walking wise. Is that
you can't
right?
Like you can't walk from Fallout 3. You can't walk from Washington to Nevada, obviously, right?
Okay. Okay.
But you can still fast travel. Also, I'd imagine those mods. It's a Wabbajack, right? So I imagine those games have been out for a long time. I think Tale of Two Wastelands came out years ago as well. So I imagine they've been curated and tested for a while.
If you are in Wasteland, or if you're in Fallout 3 and you walk to the edge of the map in Fallout 3, does it say, do you want to go to, how do you get to the new place? How do you get to New Vegas?
In DC, I know that there's a subway station, and you need I think you need a ticket, but you go through the subway station to the other place. I still haven't tried. I haven't gone to the New Vegas area, so I'm wondering how they're gonna tie in the story. If you're gonna go there, and then what's gonna happen? You're just gonna have the quest to find the courier, because it was for Fallout 3, you didn't do the whole intro with the baby and all that stuff. Like, you started at the exit of the vault and you just did all your stuff and just left. Like,
the mod
you just
removed
go into
the
game.
starting.
Yeah. Well, not the Tale of Two Wastelands mod, but the Wabbajack, at least, that I have is you just go into the game, because a lot of people don't want to redo the intro, right?
Yeah. Well, I had to redo that intro a lot when I was trying to like it.
Same.
And it was...
Well, I liked it back in the day. I thought it was really cool, but
the
probably
baby,
not
or being a baby and all that stuff. And having your
just
birthday,
starting
right?
The character. Yeah.
Yeah, was that
having your birthday and then shooting old vermin,
Oh, right. Yeah, because there's a little battle section in there where you're killing some creatures that got in or something into the vault. Yeah, I remember that now. Because I would like to know that. I'm assuming it's like an alternate start when you go to New Vegas or something, where it just figures out a way to fit you into the storyline and just pop you, you directly in. But yeah, big updates for Fallout. Obviously they'll patch or try to patch what we're seeing, and then we're also seeing the London mod, New Mexico mod. There's 2 or 3 other big mods that are a little less talked about as well, but we're getting huge mods coming in, which is awesome. Exciting to sort of see those pop up. I just don't know when they're coming out now, but go ahead.
Yeah, I can't wait I'm gonna let Creation Kit come out. I'm gonna wait a little bit, maybe even try my hand at modding a little bit, because I really want to for Starfield, and see what happens. And I can't wait to just jump back in with a lot more stuff there. I'm assuming people are going to add like a bunch of locations, and maybe what I'm hoping is a lot of stuff into the pool of procedural generation, where people just keep adding stuff to the pool, so that every time you land on a planet, you can get more varied stuff,
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were asking why Abzy is my favorite. That's you don't say that.
I'm a Pokemon.
But why? Yeah, I'll throw them out. Why Johnny and Silver not come on Wednesday? We decided to do the Wednesday one because honestly, a lot of game reviews come on Tuesday. Many come on Thursday. Now some are hitting Monday. But for a while there, we were getting to Fridays, and it was difficult to cover a week's worth of news and not miss Monday. Almost like it's difficult to do Game of the Year awards, and you forget January. So I just asked Abzy to come on. Well, anybody can come on technically, but Johnny streams on Wednesdays, and Johnny streams on Wednesday. He streams 2 or 3 days out of the week minimum. And then Silver sometimes just doesn't feel so well because his back and feet hurt sometimes, and he's a hard worker doing other shit. And so, they're open to come on Wednesdays, but usually it's just Abzy and I. No, I will not be doing a Monday one or anything like that. It's just 2. I know some people are trying to jump on the podcast train and do one every day, but that would kill my soul. And I love these guys, and it would kill my. I mean, that's a lot of. That's like losing your voice levels of talking if it's just 2 or 3 of us. And then for people who are wondering what Wabbajack is a mod package that you can put together. You can do the same thing with File Nexus collections now, and it's where people make sure their mods work. And so what they do is they make sure the mods are up and running and working. They package it as a Wabbajack, and then the next person doesn't have to hack the goddamn thing and figure out what leveled lists work and all that. They can just look, find a Wabbajack that somewhat suits probably most of their needs, and then are able to just get it up and running. Sort of
it's awesome. Couple clicks and you're just in the game modded.
Very much so.
There's overhaul ones. There's the vanilla plus ones are usually the ones I go for, where it's just the same game but just with the latest, unofficial patches and graphics updates and
while we're talking about all this too, console sales for the Xbox are down. New consoles coming from them in September, October. I can't remember what their PDF leak was. They have a new controller coming. Then we're gonna get the new consoles in the next year or so from both of those guys. But I got to tell you, I still think the differentiator for Microsoft, and I don't think this would ever happen, but I just feel personally it would be, is if you ask Bethesda to help you with a mod front end for all of your games. And you just said, okay, the difference between us and somebody else is that this will have mods, even if they decide to release their games on everything. That would actually cause me to do the other console. If I had a PlayStation version and an Xbox version, and the Xbox had mods for a game, Witcher 3 with mods here, that kind of thing would be huge.
That's huge. Yeah.
For a console. Yeah, especially because I have a Legion, which to me is a console, and last night we found some Fallout mods for textures. They look identical, but they are like 600 kilobytes versus the 4 megabytes.
There's some that improve the textures
and they improve it, and they're lower. Time. And so when you have a Legion or one with an APU and small VRAM, it's like that's a you get extra FPS but look better. Like who in the hell wouldn't want that kind of thing? I would love to see them do that. Let's see, anything else for Fallout and also
there was.
You said they wanted the next Fallout to be before 2030.
Yeah, that's what Microsoft is trying to push, a new Fallout game before 2030. It's reported that, and Todd in the past has said that he wants to try to change things in their development pipeline or their methods to churn out games a little bit faster than they do, because they do take a long time for games to come out.
And this is the Rockstar situation too, where we're starting to see, if you go back and look at wikis and stuff, the dates get wider and wider as the years go by, and you start to see that bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger level of or
I
not
think this
level,
is the biggest
but time.
It's been, right, since Red Dead.
It's a long time. I mean, they definitely, it takes them forever. So to see, and they have 3 huge, whether you like these games or not, because I know a lot of people. This is the other thing. You get a lot of people who pretend that either one of the Fallouts launched in good shape, because they did not. But now that they are in better shape due to the patches and the mods, people want a new Fallout, but they have tentpole. This is like Ubisoft at some point now, where you have these tentpole titles, these massive series, and they have 3. That's a lot. I mean, that's a lot of massive titles that you have to figure out how to get your teams big enough.
Absolutely.
But you said something that interests me. You said Microsoft, not Bethesda's pushing this? Or were you just, was this reported, a leak of a leak? Oh, okay. Yeah, I get you.
It's been reported. Rumor, basically. I have no idea. A rumor, or I didn't really look into it. I think it's a leak or something, or someone maybe announced it, but it says that Microsoft is trying to. They want a new Fallout before 2030.
Makes sense. I mean, and I think you're right. Yeah, obviously Todd said that before. That he said he has no plans on retiring during this last interview, and would like to see them make games quicker. Was there anything else from these interviews? For the most part, it felt to me like it was, especially on interviews with main guys, it's why most people, that I know, won't even try to interview them, because they're going to say, that they can't leak anything or can't do, say anything that's like super special in those interviews. I listened to it. I didn't really hear much new. I don't know if you did.
Yeah, no, the one other thing they said is that they just want to keep Fallout in the US, which makes complete sense to me because one of my favorite things about Fallout is the US nuclear family 50s culture that they have going on. Yeah.
And he also said something about keeping the mystery alive or something of the other places. Like if you keep it in America, it keeps the mystery of what's happened elsewhere high.
Sure.
And they can also tie in fiction to those too, which is nice. So they can, say maybe this happened or, add stuff into their games later that, might come from Russia or something. You can do some weird shit there. Be very cool to see.
tie-in or
suddenly you have like Spetsnaz showing up. Let's see. NC says an In Exile or Obsidian Fallout spin-off during the wait for 5 would make me happy. Yeah, I think a lot of people would like that. I would like it, but again, it's best to remember that Obsidian isn't massive either, and Obsidian is wanting to do their own thing to get out of the shadow of the helper studio kind of thing.
Well, also like Obsidian, so when they did New Vegas, they did it off the Fallout 3 engine. So I would imagine you either would be getting one in the Fallout 4 engine, or you wait until Fallout 5 is out, and then they do one in the Fallout 5
whatever
they have framework. Yeah,
that is true. You would be doing that, wouldn't you? And I don't know if Bethesda would want the other company releasing the game in the new engine. Do you get my like?
No,
that would be a little weird to have the other company show off your engine that you're planning to do on your next title. I hadn't thought about that. So it would be built on whatever we've got now from Fallout 4.
So I could see that happening after 5, or hopefully, that would be cool. I just, more Fallout games is always great, so that would be cool.
Did he say anything about Soulskeeper $6 says Larian Studios taking on the Fallout IP would be my wet dream. See, weirdly enough, CRPG? Man, yeah, I guess because I wouldn't want them to do the typical Fallout, because I don't think it's obviously not where their strength is. Their strength is in the CRPG. So the idea of them taking it over and going back towards Fallout 1 and 2 would be okay. But Larian with Baldur's Gate, I think, is great. I was nowhere near as ecstatic about the Divinity Original Sin games. So to me,
you didn't like them that much?
No, I did, but not to the point of, I think Baldur's Gate 3 is so many levels above those that it's almost not even, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's almost a different developer. And I don't know if I'd want them to be tied to Fallout, because they would be tied to another IP. And it sounds like they don't want to be tied to another IP.
Well, I do see that they can, at least for world building and the kind of the tone of the story, they are good at doing comedic stuff. One of the big things for me, when everyone loved, Divinity Original Sin I love, but my favorite CRPG was Pillars of Eternity, because it was a darker, more serious tone.
Right.
And one of my, I guess you could call it complaints. It wasn't really a big complaint. It was just like, the reason why it's not my favorite is because it's more of a comedic approach. With Divinity, there's a lot of comedy for sure. Still an amazing game, but I could see them doing a kind of a Fallout tone for sure. But I want to see them do Shadowrun. Or just stick to their fantasy stuff. They're good at that.
Nah, it's Shadowrun. Yeah, Shadowrun. Without a shadow of it, like if you said you could have them do any IP, it would like, I like Fallout and stuff, but it wouldn't even be close. Yeah. It would be a cyberpunk, Shadowrun, Sprawl Goons, something that's in the cyberpunk genre, because it's so ill used right now that it feels like a massive gap. And imagine in the future gaming we had your Elder Scrolls, your Fallout, your Starfields, and your Shadowruns or whatever. Like that to me would be sort of mind-blowing, to have these massive and made by different people. I think the thing about Larian that's good isn't necessarily something others can't attempt and get better at, which would be the multiple choice. See, that's the difference between a Bethesda game and a Larian game, is that Larian's choices, they're really in-depth, they're scripting for your character choices, but then they're not sandboxy at all. In fact, they're the opposite of sandboxy. You know many times what battle's going to come up every single time.
Yeah, it's not they don't make sandbox games, but they make a lot of sandbox within combat, which is great. There's so much interactivity with
I'm just saying that I don't know if it would feel like Fallout if you remove the sandbox to do the sandbox in the combat. It would
for sure. Yeah, but that's like Larian doing a sandbox game would be really, really interesting for sure, because they do have a lot of interactivity in their worlds. So that'd be really, really cool. Like, you
I
can
would
pick
love
a lot
it. I
of
just
stuff
feel
up
like
and
that
use
at
it.
some point you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, and something else would drop. You know what I mean?
Probably.
Because it would be so many resources to say, we're going to let you interact with a bunch of stuff. We're going to let you do all this. Oh, and by the way, we're also going to add in, 8 million variations on an ending and all of this crazy stuff. And it would be early access too, because it sounds like Larian's just going to do early access all the time. And I don't think a Bethesda, I don't think a Fallout early access is what I want. I saw that with Fallout 76.
If you want a story as strong as like a choice-based story as strong as Baldur's Gate, where you have a huge impact, I don't think you can do it very sandboxy.
Yeah, I don't either. The
so
timing thing comes up.
Doing what they do best. Yeah.
Yeah, to try to be like, you got to go save this group, and you're we already joke about that with the main story of Bethesda games, let alone with if every quest. Yeah, I like I just think they're almost war gamers at heart. Like Larian, that's their strength, is like the interactions between everything, and it started with the Divinity Original Sin games, and they went away from the stuff I liked, which was Divine Divinity. And then I think Baldur's Gate 3 did a really good job of like mixing them. You did get the RPG, and then you got the militant battle RPG part of it as well. And they also had a rule set that must have helped them greatly, because when you're trying to come up with how this affects this, if you have nothing and you have to create it, that's much harder than saying D&D 5th edition. We're building on that, or something. So you have these ideas that maybe you can look online and go, oh, this player has chosen to use a bag of holding on his bag of holding. What occurs when you do that? That kind of stuff.
I'll be chastised for this, but they go back to like making a real-time action. That would be my. Listen, man, turn-based is amazing, and the stuff you can do in these games are amazing. All right, but I still, man, listen, dude, you can call me what you want, but I still prefer action, either ARPG, like action, not the hack and slash Diablo type stuff. I'm sick of that, to be fair. But like real time with pause and more action combat, I still prefer that. So if they want, like, Divine Divinity is still my favorite game by them, even after Baldur's Gate came out, because the stuff you could do is just nuts in real time. But I don't know if they will. They have a really, really good turn-based system. They've curated it. They've done a lot of good stuff to it. Divinities was amazing, and I think I like Divinities turn-based more than Baldur's Gate, in my humble opinion.
You liked Divinity's turn-based combat more than Baldur's Gate?
Yeah, I liked the ability points. It's not for D&D 5e, so I liked the ability points, and it just felt like I had. I mean, you can do way more stuff and think outside the box with the other one, with Baldur's Gate, but with Divinity, I just liked the interaction of the elements. There's a lot more emphasis on that. Yeah.
I mean, I guess this is coming up all the time now, where the comparisons just pop up so much that we always say we want this mixed with this. You want your peanut butter and chocolate, and it's like at some point you're just getting different types of chocolate from a company, or different types of peanut butter, which I'm excited for. I just wish the peanut butter didn't take 5 years to get to my house from an Amazon delivery. I want it a little faster. A little bit more quickly. Reading some of the chats here. Volatile says, Creation Engine, in my humble opinion, has a technical debt. To fix that, they need to rewrite a lot of base code, memory management code, but I think that would be worth the time investment. Yeah, probably would. I think they're working on games at the same time they're doing those improvements, and that, I mean, it's hard to, you almost have to have a Creation Engine group. Their job is to just make the next one.
And they still want to support their mod teams and not,
Yeah, the mod support's the big one. Scape says, the updated model of Series X is digital only, so I have no interest. The PS5 Pro will have a disc or option for it, so it's a possibility for me. Microsoft should at least provide a disc add-on. Yeah, but I mean, the Series X is still being sold, so yeah, I don't know. He's talking about the new, supposedly, it was going to be cylindrical at one time, but now it looks like they're going back to the possibly the boxy thing. I think they're probably just trying to remove a little bit of money, to offer different, options to everybody. Steven Savage says 3 years sounds great, although 4 might make it more sense if we want the games to receive fleshed out DLC. Yeah, that is true. The DLC's been
really
good, man.
With DLC.
Yeah, they have, right?
Like, that's Yeah, at least one or two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I loved all of Fallout 3's DLC, even Mothership Zeta, which was the least liked one. I just like that type of stuff because it was always a mystery. I remember where I'd watch a YouTube video and it's like, did you guys know if you go into this like location, you can find a crashed mothership and find a really OP alien weapon, and it was always there, and it was like, oh my god, what is this? It's like a little mystery.
Yeah.
And they had it from the start of the game, and then not until later we got DLC for it.
Didn't they have Operation Anchorage as well?
Yeah. The Anchorage.
There's something to that.
The fight with the Chinese where you play that and get the really cool suit that is almost broken. If you have a lot of sneak level, you can like hit people and they wouldn't know where you are because you're camouflaged. Yeah, stuff was cool.
Soulskeeper says, are you guys team VATS or team Iron Sights? I am team both. I
do both.
I absolutely switch back and forth. Like I
usually I have a lot in agility, so I usually do have a lot of agility points to use VATS, but
I like using VATS when things go wrong. So I might just play normally, and then if somehow I wasn't paying attention, low health or whatever, then I'm like, and you slow it down, and it feels like a special power. It just works.
Plus, the cool thing about it is, if someone's really far away and you only have like a 10% chance of hitting with VATS, you still have a higher percent chance with if you just aim. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think it works well as a special power. I mean, it's like a special slow down power. That's really what it feels like. That's how I use VATS is more. And I love the look of VATS. I think it looks awesome. I love that mysterious stranger, whatever the name is.
The sound.
That guy can come in and randomly just blast somebody. And I remember the first time that happened, being like, "What the hell is going on there?" Coolaban says, "Dude, that stealth suit was so broken because you turn invisible when you're crouched, so you can basically just stealth kill anything if your stealth DMG was high enough." Is that broken, or is that a reward for doing that? Like,
OP. It's
OP,
very OP.
I guess. Terrence says Starfield has the best combat and no VATS. VATS is the only way to play the space combat, though.
Dude, I never put points. I never put points in that. The space combat, I never had the VATS.
Dude, I got destroyed in space combat a lot because I would have 85 containers on the side of a ship that it would be all red. And the little stats, and I didn't care because I was throwing so much crap in the spaceship, and I would go up and I would see enemies, and they'd warp in. I'd be like, "Oh, here we go!" And by the way, never once have I paid a bounty. Never a single time. If they threaten me, I'm like, "Let's go, bitch!" Never, ever have I paid a bounty. I'm all, "No, I will die versus, or I will try at least to kill you versus."
At one point, I had like my strongest my strongest ship, which had just a bunch of auto turrets. So I would just like drive and they would kill shit around me. I didn't even have to do anything, which was, I felt like a god.
I'm going to write this as a poll here. VATS or Iron Sights? Okay. Go with VATS. And I'm only going to let him pick one because it's just the way I roll.
Gun customization in Fallout 4 was awesome, like gun nut and just outfitting your guns, and even if you have like a mod that can change anything in any gun, and just making crazy wild combinations was really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is they're obviously working on a high tech. Starfield's not stopping. They made that clear, and so they're just going to continue working on that. You're looking at like Elder Scrolls had the little CGI alert announcement or whatever, that fake. I think it was, what was it? Didn't it just show like Elder Scrolls 6 and them going over a wheat field or something, or a field?
Yeah, like a little field, yeah.
So that's it. I don't know how far off that is. I feel like that's honestly 29 or 20. I mean, just because of how long it seems like it's taken them.
I think 28. I'm going to say 28.
Man, really? You think 28? So here's, okay, let's argue this. My only point is that Starfield did do well, regardless of like the, feedback on the issues, which they all have done well, but it did well. They're going to add a bunch of stuff to it, and it seems like a large team needs to do that for the DLC. So Bethesda,
hopefully they'll have like a
Bethesda would have to hire up.
Yeah.
That's my only question is like, unless Bethesda hires up a bunch, it'd be really, I mean, we're already in, you're right.
Hey, man, just throw in Exile and Obsidian with them.
Well, no, I'm just thinking hiring, if they did keep them internal. You are right, that's 4 years. That's, Yeah, we could see something in 4 years. I just feel like Todd and Elder Scrolls is going to be a long time. Yeah, true.
That's true.
True, plus, but Fallout is not, so that one's going to be even longer. What were we going to say?
That's a game. Elder Scrolls, that's a game that they really do need complete, seamless, no loading screen thing. Like, it's one fantasy world. You wanna, all games right now are becoming that. So it's a hard problem to tackle, especially if they want to keep a lot of the cool stuff about their engine. But
yeah, because I don't know if you remember, but like open cities and stuff screwed the hell out of Skyrim save games and NPCs. So it's obvious that it's hard to do. I'm sure it's been patched up and working now, so I'd like to see it. I think it would be really weird to be playing, an Elder Scrolls game and suddenly it loads into a cave. And weirdly enough, I feel like just because also it'd be a couple years before we see it, it would be even weirder to see that kind of thing. Like, it'd be even odder. But I don't know if they'll also
next-gen consoles,
yeah. It feels like that would be rough, and I think no one would accept it. There are some games that still do the load into bigger dungeons. Did Dark Souls load into every dungeon? Elden Ring.
Elden Ring did
elevators. It did.
No. Yeah, there's elevators. There's no like actual loading screen other than fast traveling, obviously.
Right.
There was fogs sometimes into boss fights, but you'd go into a catacombs.
So maybe they need to do that. They need to do some fakery,
They do.
Especially with the super fast RAM and stuff on all these and super fast GPUs. Do something weird where you just, you've got a little fog at the entrance or something. I'd be fine with that. I don't think Dragon's Dogma had any loading. It didn't, but Dragon's Dogma also had terrible it's got one, what would you even call it, a dungeon? Dragon's Dogma is just open, it's just an open world. It's not.
Yeah, it had cool caves.
Caves. It had some caves, and it certainly wasn't filled with stuff in them. In fact, the caves in Dragon's Dogma are notoriously pretty empty. You go around, you'd see a campfire, a treasure chest. I always laughed in Dragon's Dogma where you'd go around a corner and there's just a treasure chest laying there. That happens in all these games. But
that was a really cool dungeon, but I've only seen one really cool big thing. Two, actually.
The really shortcut, cool I would consider that somewhat of a dungeon, I guess.
There was the ancient battlefield, which you could call a dungeon, but it's really, it's not like a dungeon.
It's not, because you can go out either way, right? So it's it's just an old. It seems, it's an odd one when it comes to that, but. And then last but not least on this, so Starfield's update, they did announce that there will be vehicles in the future, which I thought was, I don't care to have vehicles. I don't need to have vehicles. But for those people who want it, they showed a lander driving across the ground. So you'll be able to have a vehicle of some kind. I don't know what that would look like. I just want to ride Bosco or whatever around. Just sit on his back. Ride him like a mech.
Like Metal Gear. Metal Gear with his little mech,
Or Master Blaster from Mad Max. That's an old reference. But overall, that they discussed that. They discussed some other things that they're working on, but I think it's too far out to really know. And then the Direct comes, the Xbox Direct, or whatever we're calling it, the Xbox event, that looks to be Call of Duty as well as a bunch of games from Microsoft. So I'm assuming Shattered Space, is that the DLC for Starfield? Yeah. I'm assuming that will be the day.
It's gonna be like the other faction, the religious ones.
In this new update, you mean?
That's what I think. In the Shattered Space is gonna include the new faction. That's what I'm thinking, because it's been hinted at a lot.
Yeah. Other than that, there wasn't much. Other than that is small, because I know a lot of people do like the idea of vehicles. They also, in the update that they're doing, you're going to get city maps with full topography, which I thought was pretty cool. It's just icon heavy though. Shit.
Yeah.
They showed it and he clicked like the icons on, and when you're in the city, it's like, oh my god, that's a lot of icons. But there's a lot of places to go. The cities were quite diverse in Starfield. I felt there were multiple level. There were a bunch of places you could go. Remember when we were first playing it, we were going into like a building's random elevator, and you'd find people in there doing shit. There was a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
so there's
a lot of people
to
talk to and hidden quests and stuff. Yeah, very cool.
And then what else did they cover in that update video? Let me look here. So I got to say, this is a positive. They're fixing some of the shipbuilding and all that, but the big thing to me is weirdly a really dumb, no one will care but me, and that's that You can decorate the inside of your ship, which I think is cool, but you can also get ship habs that are 100% empty. And to me, that's the magic, because I don't mind buying ship habs, but they're set up a very particular way. So no matter what you do, you can guess the manufacturer, you can guess this. I want a ship that can be like a pleasure den that, looks a certain way, or the main ship, the guy that you go into and you're trying to buy the museum ship. That ship was so crazy compared to all the ships in Starfield. That mission when you go in and the mercs are there and you can hire them to help kill him or deal with him.
Yeah.
I want that. I want to be able to make that. Like, I want to be able to put my own stuff.
It was very hard to know. I had to look up a little table that someone made to know which habs had what. Like, did this one have a kitchen?
Very hedgy on how they gave data on what was in what.
Yep, exactly.
All right. Moving on from there, let's talk about Gray Zone Warfare for a little bit. So this is a game that was in early access with no clue when it was coming out, and then the Tarkov stuff went off, and they just decided, let's take advantage of it. Pretty open about it, which is good. And they released it. It has pretty hedgy performance. I've seen people say it's terrible, but then I look at what they're running, what video card they're running,
they have like
and what
1080s and shit.
Yeah, and what that game is, because that game definitely is one of the more dense, incredible looking.
It looks really good.
Forest areas. I played a bit, but you did as well, and it sounds like you played more than me. So, what did you think of it as a whole?
It's weird. This is a conversation also I'd like to have. Is like, early access now is subject to a lot of reviewing and a lot of a lot of criticism. So at what point is it okay to release an early access? Because right now I see a lot of promise with the game. I honestly see a lot of promise. There's a lot of I really like Milsim games, and I want more. I always want more, and I bought into it with the idea of, okay, I know there's not a lot going on in this game, but I want to support and I want to give feedback and I want to help. I legitimately want to help with the actual game coming out. Like, I want to give feedback, and I want to see the game grow into something really, really cool. So right now, I think there are a lot of issues with the game. Obviously, performance for me is not bad. It's pretty good, but I have a really good system. And it has really good frame gen, by the way. The frame gen in that game doesn't give me much input lag, if at all. And it boosts the shit out of my FPS, so like 160. But there are server issues, obviously. There's rubber banding. Sometimes you can get into like empty-ish servers that are, they're a bit better in terms of performance and rubber banding and that stuff and hit registration. But when it gets really populated, you'll see a lot of server-side issues. I think it's a little bit better than how Helldivers released with its servers. I mean, like trying to get into games. Obviously, there's probably not as many people, but I had no issues getting into the actual servers. I think UI obviously is very, very early. Like, you could see the game is definitely still in alpha or pre-alpha even. Like, there's a lot missing, but there is a lot that's there. The weapon modding is like ripped out of Tarkov. But it's really cool to see. I really like the actual real models of stuff. Like, I can see the Arcane there, the Voodoo. Like, these are all real scopes, real attachments. There's just, a bunch of issues that you would expect a game in its early stages to have. But I do see a lot of promise in the game for sure.
So the big problem with them is that, early access at some point is too early versus, let's say, a demo, or let's say being or doing some betas. I do think they're one step behind where I normally expect even an early access, because a lot of early access games don't have as many glitches, but they have barely any content. This one seems to have spread out content that they haven't cut off for a beta. And so it's open, and so you experience it, and you're like, what is going on? But it is also PvE with PvP on it. And I think a lot of people thought it was going to be PvP, and instead it's like it's and then unfortunately what I experienced was the PvE part is pretty terrible. And so the
AI is very bad.
The AI is it is horrendous. And so you get a situation where they have a really good idea in the main bases being safe and friendly. That's very cool. You get this like feeling of, I can jump in without worrying right away, or I have a place that I can go that's safer. I think the gun combat is pretty janky, or the shooting the sound is really janky. The shooting's a little janky. Some of the animations are. But what they have is a huge world that they've added some stuff to and then taken ideas from these other games. And if this was 6 months from now and they had improved what we're seeing, it would probably be easily early access and easily score much higher. I think their jump, they knew, I'm sure. They were like, let's just see how it goes. And it's gone well numbers-wise. I think they had 60 or 70 concurrent, 70K concurrent, which I hate talking about concurrent because it means nothing depending on the game and depending on all this kind of stuff. But overall, that's a pretty good start for them. And they were pretty open that it is, I mean, it's early access. So
it's not. I would say the only I would say that I wouldn't recommend if you're not like a heavy, you're invested in Milsim and want to kind of, support and
engage in that.
Engage with like the feedback and just see the game grow. I wouldn't say it's worth someone's money right now that just wants to get in and play a game for sure. Without feeling like they're kind of, they're just putting money into something that's completely very, very early on. Like it's I would say it's pre-alpha. I mean, they announced it was pre-alpha a couple weeks ago.
Exactly. So
you know what I mean? And they just saw an opportunity to release it right now because of the Tarkov thing. Which I don't know, man, because that leads me into like the conversation of the early access. Like so Hades 2 did a technical test thing before the early access, and we were kind of like, okay, this is early access to the early access. Because once you hit that button on Steam, that's it. You're subject to a lot of criticism. You put a price tag on it. People can buy it now, and you got to justify people's money, like the game's worth. So it's a very scary thing to do. But the CEO or whatever was tweeting that they want more. I mean, there's a positive to it, which is like you have the game in a lot of people's hands now, and you can, the server strain is a thing that you can test, and obviously a bunch of feedback from players. So
everybody in chat, do you guys do early access or not? I would also say the thing that happens with this is, yes, they did it early. They are subject to reviews because they're asking for money. But overall, early access is such a weird time now that as long as you're open with what you're offering, then it becomes on the consumer. And I saw people saying, well, at least it doesn't cost $250 as their review. And I do want to focus on the cost because the cost is it is a real deal. I mean, I know that people, if you get review codes or whatever, it's just not. It's a different thing. But if you're spending your money is going to matter. Even if you're a millionaire, you know what $30 is. Maybe nothing. Maybe $30 is nothing. But if you have a couple thousand in the bank, 30 can mean something different than if you have nothing in the banks. But we all understand. We all understand that the comparison is quite easy. So it's super important to me. And seeing it, at least it doesn't cost $250 is like, yeah.
This is where we're
at. well, yeah, it's where we're at, but it's also like, yeah, at least it does. If you're looking to possibly support something that'll replace Tarkov, and it's not $250, I do understand that thought process. Would I like those reviews to say more? Of course, they're not reviews. That means nothing.
No,
but I get the point. I do get the point of saying, and by the way, Tarkov has been broken, as you've stated and other people stated. There's been huge things broken for a great deal of time. And so somebody may look at this game and go, listen, at least we have a chance of fixing it. I don't know if I trust these other guys to fix the old version.
Not in Unity,
yeah. Oh, yeah. See, and it's in an engine that has a future, right?
Yeah.
That has a future in Unreal. So I sort of get it. I was asking people if they do. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead. What were you saying?
No, I was just going to say it is like, we talked about the static thing, but it is really cool going from a game on Unity to this where it looks much better. And really cool to see like the seamless travel. Like, hey guys, we're going on the chopper now. We're calling to the LZ, going back. You can go back to your body. Stuff like that is really, really cool.
Also, especially when, I don't know, when you look at Unreal and you look at Unity, I just feel like Unity has no future at all. Just none. they burn people, plus it already had its own issues, and it feels like a lot of the Unreal's doing a good job. None of us want Unreal to be the only engine. That's ridiculous. But when you look at some other engines out there, you're like, And the Kingdom Come devs have been clear. That's why they're sticking with CryEngine, because they know it. So maybe the only way to get a new engine is a new game. Because I'll tell you this, if they said 250 and we're moving to Unreal, well, then you'd probably have to, that would be an odd thing, but at least there would be some kind of feel of like, oh, there's going to be improvements across a diverse level of issues we've had in the past in Tarkov if they go to Unreal, because I do believe some of their issues are just Unity.
Yeah, and someone made a really good point as well. It is very, very different game than Tarkov. It's a completely different beast for sure. It definitely appeals to the milsim crowd. It's more laid back, a little bit more like a cross between Tarkov and Arma. But yeah, that's what I was saying with Tarkov's issue. One of the biggest issues is that Tarkov does have a monopoly on like if you there is nothing that feels like Tarkov right now in the market. And that might be the case for a long time, but there you will see like a lot of crossovers because people who like milsim like milsim.
Well, let me also point out the other side of that argument, which is if it's got a monopoly and it's been around this long and nothing feels like Tarkov, then at some point, to me, it is no longer unique. It is what I've experienced for many years, and they haven't improved it. So to me, jumping to a different one is like, okay, that's fine, because nothing's like Tarkov. Great, whatever. But I have played Tarkov, and these improvements haven't come.
Sure.
And now there's this extent. So it's like I will jump to something else. If I want, I can return to Tarkov, but I'm not vesting back in to Tarkov.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is, if if we're all saying Tarkov is unique and fits a certain bill, then you're going to have to reinvest into it. And by the way, it's a different mode anyway in the new one, right? In the 250, it's a different mode completely. So it's like, how do you know that mode is going to feel in some way unique to everything else? So a lot of people look at it and go, I can reinvest in the same old without the improvements that we've asked for years. And now they're not even we don't know where that's going to go because they're trying to do another one. And this is the third time they've tried something, because they tried the tournament thing as well, or something like that. Was that another mode too?
Yeah, Arena was another mode. Yeah. It was another mode where they really wanted to hit the esports position. They wanted to, because esports money is huge, but they did it in all the wrong ways. I mean, it's not that good, to be honest. They also did some weird charging thing to get in early and all that stuff, even for the $150 edition. Which was, that's another thing, is the devs as well. So one big thing about Gray Zone is that the devs are taking this approach of consumer.
I already know where this conversation's going to go.
They're like responding. They're like, okay, we're going to fix this. Here's a hot fix. So that's like another thing that, because of BSG's fall, their decline, they're like coming in and we're the saviors. But you're already also, which is I think a little bit maybe sad, but there are like huge Tarkov streamers that have been playing Tarkov for years and years and only Tarkov, that are now going like, hey, maybe I want to do, like, I just saw a streamer go like, hey, I kind of want to do variety now. I'm playing Manor Lords. I'm trying Rainbow Six, all the other stuff.
And that's the sexiness of games, man. I saw people who still do Skyrim, content. They do, they talk about new Skyrim mods. They talk blah blah blah. But it's like at some point, there is that sexiness of like, I don't just have to try to dig from the same well at some point and try to wait for water to fill it so I can get my bucket. It's like, all right, maybe I'll cover fucking 2 games. And what if that second game is not only more fun for me, so creating is easier and streaming's easier, but it's more fun. And I don't have to go, oh, these 7 errors I know about in this game. So I'll, and I've known about them for like 10 years. At some point, you're just, it's I think it's awesome that they have a different style of game that still, by the way, even if it's nothing like Tarkov, which it is like Tarkov in the fact that at least it's got guns and people shooting. There's some similarities.
And the looting.
And looting and the inventory. So there are things, like, I know it's easy to say it's nothing like it, but it's like, no, it absolutely is. There are things they've stolen and cribbed directly from it.
100%.
But it's easy. To me, you go to a family reunion to see people occasionally, and then you don't want to talk to them again for a year. We're going to get games like that where people are going to try things. You'll see them. They'll pop in. Some you won't want to do again, but then there's going to be somebody here that pops up, and we saw it with Battle. What was the original Battle Royale?
PUBG or H1Z1 or
well, H1Z1, but I was talking PUBG. But then you got PUBG, and then Fortnite came along, offered a weird, different thing. By the way, remember it started as a different mode completely. And then they looked at it and they were like, "Hey, let's do this," and it worked. And so now you have both games if you want to do PUBG. I don't know what PUBG runs like. I mean, it used to still run like crap after being out for many years.
It still runs better now.
Does it run better now?
It still has the Arma jank, like the which I like. It still has the, you're kind of heavy. There's momentum, Yeah. I do also have weirdly, I don't know why, because Bungie has fucked us over a lot in the past, I guess. I do have faith in Marathon. I think, the trailer looks cool. We haven't seen anything, but I feel like they're doing something with that. They're cooking something. I feel like it's gonna take the world, or like at least the extraction genre, because we don't have a good AAA extraction game yet. You know what I mean? But I don't know. I don't
have any non-faith, and I don't have any faith. I just have like interest in it. Bethesda Bungie has shown that they can do shooting right.
Yeah.
Shooting. They can't do inventories, and they didn't do well with story, and they didn't do well with consumer support, and UI they didn't do well with UI, and they didn't do well with even travel. Remember, travel had loading and all that kind of stuff. The stuff that even back then people were like, "Oh, there's a loading screen. You got to wait for this. Blah blah blah. Watch a ship fly by. All that kind of stuff." I'm excited to see what they plan, but I don't necessarily know if people. I don't even know what its form will be, I guess. So I guess I can't be in. I guess that's why I'm a little hedgy on it. Super chat from MK Bandit. He says, "Is the 1X Player X1 big enough?" This is the 11-inch tablet handheld that 1X Player Pro released. I would say it's a little too big. I've played with tablets with a claw connected to 360, and I still think that 8 to 9 would be fine, especially like I'm playing on the Legion. That would be fine, especially if battery tech gets just a tiny bit better, maybe a little lighter. I think 11 is big. I have a tablet that's 11. I got to tell you, 11 comes to the point to where it's a tiny bit like a too big of a screen in front of your face when you like are holding it like this. You find yourself leveraging out a little bit farther. But it's 1X Player Pro or 1X Player, and they like to release a lot of handhelds. They're not as bad as that. What's that one? Ayoka or something. There's another company out there that has like 12 devices for the Windows market. I think people don't realize that because the APUs are out there, Intel's, which isn't so great, and AMD's, and they're easy to get a ton, and you know what their performance is. People are just messing around to see what fits the market, and it works. I have nothing against a larger screen. That is pretty big. 11 inches in front of your face. It even looks goofy. Like my Legion is form fit perfectly, so the top is, horizontal, so you could sit it on its top or on its bottom without any issues. But this thing, it's bigger than the controllers. So what it really looks like is a backbone with a big tablet in it. And it looks a little ugly. And then weird enough, you can take that tablet out anyway. So now you have just a super thick tablet. And the Legion does that, and so do a couple others, where you can take the sides off, and now you just have, instead of having a nice thin Samsung tablet, you have this chunky-ass Windows tablet, which has all its own issues. But yeah, I get it. I get why people like it. A couple people I know have it. They love the form factor, and they love the size of it. But that's monster, man. Have you seen that thing?
I saw the picture, but
it's gnarly.
It's a chunker. Yeah,
and then also from MK Bandit, he says, "What is your favorite video game rumor?" I.e., MEW is under the truck. Now, I don't know what the hell that means. MEW. Mass Effect.
What is your favorite?
But he says, what's your favorite pre-internet video game rumor? So, pre-internet, like truck. Pre-internet video game rumor.
Oh, it's like those,
magazines back in the magazine days. This might be early for you.
Or
might
like
be
going
before
to
your
school
time.
and someone telling you, hey man, did you know that if you like jump 3 times and like, go under this toilet, you find like
I've got one then. It may not be pre-internet because the internet's existed, prior to us getting it. But I would say that the big one was they weren't selling PlayStation 2s to the Middle East because they were worried Saddam would use the chips inside to launch missiles. And it was probably started by a Sony henchman, but it was hilarious. It was like, what in the heck? It was one of the dumbest, internet to me that was pre-internet because it was in a magazine, Die Hard Game Fan.
PS2 was like the most popular console in the Middle East.
Oh, dude, well, yeah, and were you guys even getting them originally as a? Could you get them? Did you have to buy them on the gray market back then? Because there was a big thing with import back then.
Only in some countries, yeah.
Only in some countries, yeah. Probably Iraq, right? Maybe it was, where maybe
Syria,
they had
even,
some. Yeah,
you had to buy fake copies of discs.
I love the idea of it, though. I love the idea that they'd take the PS2 and they'd put that chip in a missile and it would suddenly launch better with higher efficiency than I mean, they were lobbing missiles anyway.
PS2.
Yeah, the power of the PS2. It's always been the power of. What was another pre-video game? I mean, I remember when a console would be announced or something. There'd be rumors about what it could do.
The concept art about all those new consoles
and controllers.
Yeah,
the Bat controller for Sony for a while. Remember that thing? Looked like a boomerang.
PlayStation controller with the big ass handles on the side. Yeah.
Or remember when it was a big deal that I remember first hearing about the N64 controller and not believing it because it had 3 posts. And being like, there's no chance somebody's going to require 3 arms. Yeah. And that was real. That turned out to be real.
That was real.
Let's see. Spetsu has a super chat. Let me post it in here. Betsu, thank you very much for always being in here, always supporting the channel, watching you stream, watching you turn into Rambo and Hunter Call of the Wild, and killing all my deer. He says, let's say you heard a great song or watched a movie that you really liked. Later, you discovered that it was created by artificial intelligence. Does that in any way change your evaluation and overall perception?
Maybe subconsciously in some way.
I don't see how it would go back and change my enjoyment or my whatever. I would honestly probably say this. I'm just being brutally honest. I know it's not popular to say. Wow, it's better than I thought. That's what I would say. I would say that is, oh, really? That is better than I thought it could do. That would be
that would be my reaction.
Yeah, because I made some AI songs with the new AI things, and I was singing them for 5 days afterwards. They were that catchy. So, I Shaved My Bush and I'm Ready to Go is probably one of the funniest songs I ever heard. And, completely written by AI. Wow. And I just thought it was, it's Fallout. Yeah. So the guy made a song that sounds just like it's in the Fallout world. And it's a woman singing about getting ready to bang her husband when he comes home from work. And it's just awesome, man. It's just awesome. Yeah. What about, let's talk about a movie, though. I think I would say the same thing. I would be stunned with a movie because the infinite depth of a movie. Can you imagine if you were watching something,
live action?
Yes. That would be.
Jesus. Yeah, that would be.
Honestly, I'd probably start doing the bunker.
At first I'd be like, who the hell are all these actors? I've never seen these faces before.
He looks a little like Leonardo DiCaprio, but then also a little like Christian Bale. And you're all.
Yeah.
It's a good question, Spetsu, but I think right now that's where I would be. I mean, and then we have another super chat. Who's this? Knucklehead. He says, I'm going to post this in real quick. Hopefully, it's probably showing all this typing I'm doing. I apologize if it is in the post on the screen. Knucklehead says, what phone are you using? Are you a heavy user throughout the day, or do you keep it pretty light? And how often do you upgrade your phone? Have a good one, guys. Thank you very much, Knucklehead. So,
for me,
phone usage.
I mean, I change my phone every maybe 5-6 years, usually. And at work, I use it a lot because I have to. At home, I don't, PC is my phone. Like how people don't really go on their PCs. They're always on their phones. I'm always on my PC. So, my phone is usually just on the side or,
I would mimic that. My upgrade speed is quite slow because I don't use it to make calls. I do use it for the occasional emergency music on the deck if I don't want to bring a tablet. But I'll replace his question with tablet since it's pretty much known that's what I use. I use the tablets heavily. I use the tablets very heavily to the point of almost as much as my desktop because browsers now let you share those tabs between your browser and your tablet. And so it's helped me with studying for the podcast or whatever. And I'm laying in bed and I find a good link I favorite it, and then I go to the PC, and boom, it's already in the Firefox tab. Or something like that. And it's so easy to move between them. And then music, movies. Samsung has Dex, which is a fake Windows. I don't know if you've ever used a Samsung device, Abzi, but they have a version, they have an app called Dex. And when you click it, it changes it to Windows. You can even put multiple windows up, stretch them. So then you put your output to a TV, and you now have a PC. It's running Android, cool. But you have a PC, basically. Yeah. And yeah, I use mine a ton, but upgrades, not so much. I don't know if there's I don't play games on them, and I think upgrades are generically connected to games for me, if that makes sense. If it'll run the app, I'm fine, but a game
because what
would
else?
Be wound
I mean,
up
camera is people's biggest thing.
Yeah, camera is pretty big for people. Do you take a lot of... I'm very poor. I can make the best 2 billion gigapixel camera look like absolute hammered dog shit.
Yeah, no, I'm not a picture taker.
I take bad pics, man.
Yeah,
they're terrible. They're terrible.
Yeah. I try to be like artsy and like go on my knee and doesn't turn out.
I'll do the thing with, ISO or whatever, and you're like, okay, you got this set up, you take a picture, and my dog will go. And it'll, so all you get is this ghost dog moving his head during the picture. I'm like, whatever, man.
Photography is an art, man. Even in-game photography, I'm so terrible at like taking in-game screenshots, but people just wow me all the time with all the effects and crazy shit they do.
Bro, I can make an amazing screenshot look like shit in the best photo editor in a game. I'll get a game that looks Horizon, like Forbidden West. Hey, I'll take a screenshot, and somehow there's like an animal's head halfway through the screen or whatever.
Terrible.
I'm like, Jesus Christ. And I edit. I don't know if there's been times where I posted pictures where I have to crop it because somehow I got my finger in a video game. That's not happened. But you know what I mean? It's like, how did I get my finger in the video game screenshot? Yeah, dude, it's ridiculous. I can really... we should be testers for people's photo modes in their games. I think Spider-Man...
a focus group.
I did pretty good, but I saw some people posting. I think it was Johnny said, man, look how good Spider-Man looks. And he posted a picture. I couldn't tell what was going on because to him, he knew, but there was Spider-Man was like doing a leap. And I was like, oh, I'm not the only one who can fuck up a video game photo mode,
Yeah.
But it's a good point, though. Two-Door says, I hate using phone for internet browsing with multiple tabs in a browser. It's so slow. Luckily, tablets, at least for me, the tablets are lickety split, if not sometimes a little faster in the browser.
I hate texting on my phone. I hate browsing. I don't like. I can't do that. A lot of people are very fast with it. Yeah,
on your phone, I don't do a ton. Well, I do a lot of tabs, but I have a tendency to. It's hard to close a bunch of tabs. If you open a bunch of tabs in a tablet or a phone, it's right there at the edge, and I a lot of times will hit the bezel versus so you have to like make sure you're closing the right tabs or you close the wrong one. I don't mess I don't mess with a ton of tabs, but searching stuff, the only thing I don't like about Android devices, and this could be Windows too, iPhone, is that on the Android, even with pop-up blockers, I still get more pop-ups than I do on my desktop. And so I'll go to a website I trust or a website I've gone to hundreds of times, and I'll be like, why does this look so weird and different? And then I'll realize whatever is not working in the background, and I'm getting these other, pop-ups or movies playing. Also, have you noticed sometimes Android has the new thing where the ad is huge, and you have to scroll past the full page ad on Android? At least I do, to try to get to the next part of the write-up or whatever of the article.
Yeah.
That never happens on PC for me.
Yeah, for sure. Same.
It's a good question, though, Knucklehead. I'd like to know what you actually do. And anybody in chat, if you use your phones, looks like most. Shrek says that either of you used a tablet for drawing. Yeah. So, do you ever?
No, I'm not a drawer. I am not a drawer.
I don't use it for drawing good things, but I use it for Dungeons and Dragons or role playing, where I'll come up with an idea in bed and I'll try to sketch something or say, here's what the general place looks like. What do I want to talk about when the guys go there, if they do? That kind of stuff. I've seen people drawing on tablets really well, but they usually need the little hand glove. And I got to admit, so they don't palm it and the tablet sees your hand as a giant brush. So I think I just gave up after a while. Let's see. The next one is MK Bandit as well. He says, thoughts on Vanguard being rolled out for League of Legends. What's that mean? Do you know?
Vanguard is their anti-cheat for Valorant, which seems to be working really well. I mean, it's a bit invasive. but Valorant has like the least cheaters in all of
Wow.
FPSs probably right now. And that's I mean, I don't know, man. I personally, after Tarkov especially, I would prefer invasive anti-cheat rather than dealing with cheaters if it's a game like I really like and play ranked of. But there's a lot of casual players for League that only play like ARAM and those other game modes that would probably not enjoy that anti-cheat there. I know that with Valorant, I mean, I didn't like the anti-cheat there, kind of, because I wasn't like too big into Valorant, and it felt like it caused issues in my PC. So it must be good for people who play like high level ranked, because in high level ranked, you'll see a lot of scripters who literally all you have to do is hold a space bar and you'll dodge every move and win the game. So it's good for the cheaters, but it's good.
And so it's called Vanguard.
Riot Vanguard. I think that's their anti-cheat.
I would say it's good. I agree that if the more interested I am in a game, the more I want the anti-cheat on. Yeah. So you know what I mean? Yes. The more and if I don't like rootkit stuff, but I do understand why somebody who is playing it, competitive or whatever, wants the highest level of security. I just feel like rootkits seem to go too high. But the one I don't like is when it's just a generic game and there's a single-player mode and there still is one, and easy anti-cheat is still my example of one that stymies me every day. I have had no issues with Denuvo, ever. But I can tell you, easy anti-cheat does not like my PC. It just, when I see it for a review, I just checkmark going, I know I will have to open this 20 times for it to start. Yeah. It will just sit there and then just close. And I open it up multiple times, and then at one point, it's just like, oh, okay, this is actually an okay. It's just, I hate seeing the words easy anti-cheat. I don't know. And it's not rootkit or anything. That's just a generic one. But whatever, I don't know what I have on my PC. I have a lot of hard drives. I've thought about that before. What if it can't read all the data? Whatever it shouldn't really be reading my hard drives. But this is just me thinking outside the box. What if I have too many things and it just finally decides he must be doing something wrong or something like that? And then he also brought up that Nexus Mods is raising their prices. Man.
For what? Oh, for premium.
For the premium. That was expected because Fallout, they got the huge amount of downloads. They were charging, what is it, $5, I think, for premium each month?
Yeah, $5 a month. Yeah, I have premium for only 1 month, because I got it for the Wubba Jack, so it doesn't take forever.
Yeah.
But I don't have it constantly. I mean, I don't think it's a thing unless you're like a heavy, crazy modder type dude. It's not something you get forever. Like, it's something you get if you want to heavily mod a game with like over 500 to 1,000 mods. Anything under that, I don't think it's worth it.
Onamaru says, easy anti-cheat is giving my PC seizures too. So it seems like a lot of people are having that issue. Cantankerous Goat says, haven't had a PC in like 15 years. Phone does what he needs. Oh, that's very cool. I don't know a lot of people who do just phones, but that's cool if you don't need a PC. Christ, you can stream on games and do whatever. So when it comes to Nexus Mods raising prices, not surprising. Their hosting fees, we're now seeing companies being pretty open about hosting fees for like AWS or not just hosting, but their software stuff. All of the prices for everything have gone up. I think it makes sense to raise their price. It is what it is. It sucks if you use it like what Absy was saying. You just got to turn off your damn subscriptions, people. If you're not downloading a bunch of stuff from Nexus files, why would you pay them the next month? Feels like 1 month. Maybe they should have, and maybe they do have this, because I do have it turned on because I do mod a lot of games. But if I wasn't, I wonder if they have a 1 month subscription that turns off automatically. Okay, well, there you go.
It turns off automatically?
Yeah, it turns off.
It's very easy to cancel.
It would be. It is easy to cancel, because I have canceled it once or twice and then turned it back on. But if they did a thing that was called and it was the same price, by the way. But if they said, you can choose, hey, I don't want to worry about this, just turn it off at the end of the month.
I was like a couple, because I made a little very easy mod for Cyberpunk back in the day when it first came out, and I think I was a few downloads away from just them giving me lifelong membership, but I didn't hit it. My friend got one though.
Speaking of membership, if you guys get a chance, if you become a YouTube member, you can jump in the Discord where we stream games, talk about games, chat about different stuff, and you can get your news topics easier into the podcast. I would appreciate it. It helps out the channel. Next up, Arkham VR game. So, okay, Meta Quest 3 exclusive, Arkham, Shadow of Arkham.
That is hilarious to me because that is so funny to me, man. It's so funny, that whole situation. It's so funny because people's huge complaints about Suicide Squad was that they just wanted another. A lot of people want another.
They
Arkham
wanted
game.
another Batman game.
Oh my god, it's the biggest slap to the.
Welcome to the future. Yeah,
so funny, man. It's so funny.
Yeah, because Meta's throwing a lot of money at AI, and they're throwing a lot of money at Quest and trying to get, because regardless of what we think and how well Quest sells, it still doesn't sell near as much as it needs to be like a valid platform for a title to do well on its own without support or the amount of money you're putting out and the risk there, because the risk is still super high. So I'm sure they went to them and said, you did a great job with whatever the old VR game was, because I really enjoyed it, but it was only like 45 minutes.
One?
Yeah. So what I'm worried about is how long this will be, what its content will be. That's going to be the big thing. And is it going to be like AR as well, where Batman's in your house? That would suck. I want a true VR,
full-on Batman game.
Full-on Batman game. Or at least what they sort of showed in the other one. And then you got to figure out how long somebody wants to be in VR. I think the average time is still less than 2 hours. And so, in 1
hour is like max for me at a time.
Yeah, VR.
Yeah,
it's pretty tough to be in VR much longer, and I have the lightest headset.
Yeah, no, I had I had the Lenovo, so it was a.
Oh, that was a bitch.
Like very comfortable to keep on for a long time.
Yeah, the great thing is you entered in with the I think it's the worst FOV or one of the worst, and it was considered one of the more uncomfortable ones. And it's a bad.
And I still loved Alex. Half-Life Alex, I couldn't get enough of. Yeah, I just listen, man. We just have to wait for Valve to release another $1,000 VR so we can get another good game on that.
Dude, come on. I mean, that was crazy. But so that's how it works, man. That's where the money's going to them. It's just like Epic pays, some companies to release on their platform. Luckily, on that indicator, you still have the PC to play it. Here, you don't. It's going to be VR. Now, the cool thing is people hack these all the time to get the VR game to work on flat, or try to figure out a way to do that, or maybe just on glasses where you don't have to buy the whole headset. But I think overall, you're going to be stuck with a Meta for a couple weeks to a month before somebody hacks it to work on the other handhelds. Somebody will figure out some way to do it. Modders, I used to think that modders wouldn't, but now I'm just.
Oh, dude, did you see
everything?
The Manor Lords dev retweeted
the VR
mod?
Yeah.
That one looks cool.
It's pretty terrible because nothing occurs in that.
Oh, okay.
In that, when you go down as your lord in Manor Lords, you don't do anything. You just walk around. So it's like, all right, much ado about nothing a little bit, but still there because it's an Unreal game, and so they can hack it quite easy. And I think that's awesome. Manor Lords being a good game, early access itself, but a good game nonetheless. In a Batman game,
a lot of potential.
So here's the other thing: is this good? I don't know the timeline, because there's certain questions like, how are you even going to play as Batman? I don't understand.
Well, the voice actor as well, right?
Well, the voice actor as well. Dude, I had forgotten completely about the voice actor. Yeah, true.
Yeah. Maybe you'll play as an offshoot again.
Maybe you'll be one of the 55 variations of Batman when Batman goes on trips and shit.
Or
you'll be mini Batman.
Alternate reality where his dad is the Batman.
Yes. Oh, man, I got to admit, I would be much more interested because shooting versus all the fisticuffs, which is going to be weird in VR. The idea that you do both, you have some fisticuffs, but you also have guns and you're just blowing people away. That would be amazing. Because that was the alternate where his kid died. And he became
it was in a Justice League movie as well, like a cartoon where they went into the other reality. Man, superhero, they love their multiverse stuff. But yeah, it was that his son died, and I think his son and wife, so he became Batman.
Hey, whatever. I mean, what if you did multiple Batmans in the same Batman game, and you're like, each level is, Shattered Dimensions for Spider-Man did that, where they had the noir Spider-Man, they had the comic books, but I think the cel-shaded Spider-Man and a couple others. I think that would be awesome. I would definitely play something like that. We'll just have to see, guys. It's Quest, so Quest 3 is pretty powerful. We can see some good graphics. I think that'd be awesome. Next up is a little bit of sadder news, and that's that Alan Wake 2 has still not made its money back.
Yeah. There's a lot of things going against it.
Well, there are, but they also got money from Epic. They sold it at a cheaper price. You would think more people got it, but I swear to God, whoever's doing financials at Remedy since day one is an English major. I don't know what's going on, but every single game release, this happens for them. They, you hear about them like not making their money back. I don't know if that just means they put every cent in, but I look at Alan Wake 2 and I'm like, it is amazing, but I don't see it costing so much that it couldn't have recouped by now.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah.
It won awards, which, by the way, yes, awards don't matter. But
I don't know how many people there are, but they're definitely super vocal. The crowd that wants physical copies, and then you got the crowd that doesn't want to deal with Epic and they just want to play on Steam, and then you got the fact that it's like a 14-year later sequel, which rides heavily on the first one. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff there. Yeah,
there's not only that, but the fact that it was on all the consoles and it still didn't make its money back seems like, wow, that's I don't
even after awards it won. And
yeah, dude, I don't know, man. I just want them to make money so I don't have to worry about if I want an Alan Wake 3 or what. Like, I just like Alan Wake. This is the same thing that happened with Alan Wake 1. And Alan Wake 1 was, let's see, at the time it was Xbox and PC. Later and then Control was on everything. I think it was Epic as well early. I could be wrong on that. It's been a long time since Control came out. But Control made money finally, right? I'm almost 100% sure Control has become financially viable by now. So I feel like we've read that news.
We read news where it's like their games don't do well at first, but then over time, it's like those, it's like Prey and stuff where you know, they look back on it and be like, this is one of the best games. Control is literally like Prey, where not a lot of people got it at launch, but now people say it's like one of the best games ever made. Yeah.
Well, here's Team Monk 98 says a really good point. He says that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth supposedly undersold. I wouldn't say I added supposedly, and I'm going to remove that because we do know it undersold. And he was wondering if it has to do with timed exclusivity. I mean, it's possible. We don't know what a port would cost. That's the big issue, is how much does a port cost? But it does feel like this, guys, this is why every company wants to release on every place humanly possible. Just to make sure that no one is out there as an outlier. Give people the ability to hate your game on their platform or like it on their platform. Don't hold back on a platform. Yeah, and
Final Fantasy Remake Rebirth is the same thing, where it's a sequel, and there's a lot of.
But it's not only that. I think if we go back to Alan Wake, dude, Alan Wake 1 was a suspense thriller. Alan Wake 2 is almost horror. And I just don't know if people realize that there is. We have a huge number of people just last night in the Discord who admitted they had not played Alan Wake 2. We weren't even talking about the money thing. We were talking about games that the last couple of years that have came out that were awesome. And there was a good contingent, if not most, of that group had not played Alan Wake 2 or finished it or played much of it because it was a horror game. It was scary to them, which is fine.
That's what the Resident Evil devs said. Remember when they're like, we are leaning away from horror because it doesn't sell well, and people got mad about that because they loved 7. But it is true, man. Like people don't want to be. Not as many people want to be scared.
Yeah. I mean, that's the honest truth. Like, not as many people want to be scared as want a suspense action thriller. That's 3 categories. Horror is 1. And even if it's action horror, it's 2 that you still have. Horror is like one of those tags you see on a game that always makes you pause longer than the other tags. You see all these tags and it says it could be like 30 FPS.
Are there jump scares where are there like really scary areas? Yeah, it's a detractor for sure.
I really truly liked it, but I can tell you tonally, there's no question that Alan Wake 2 felt tonally hugely different than the original game.
Completely.
And that did actually hurt it for me personally as well. Even though I liked it, I felt like, The Digo says, I love the first Alan Wake from what I remember, but I was 13. So I never got excited for Alan Wake. Yeah, I mean, many years have passed. I think Alan Wake, people who like Alan Wake, some of them probably don't even game anymore or are dead from, massive infarctions. Let's see. Shattered Stasis says, I'm not sure how much of an impact it would make, but you also have those idiots who buy into the Sweet Baby Inc. drama, and Alan Wake 2 exists under that umbrella. What's Sweet Baby Inc.? That's a developer or like a
drama or whatever.
Consultation company.
For diversity or whatever. There's no. Listen, man, Alan Wake 2 is not woke. It's not woke. It's oh my god, we have to go.
Alan Wake 2 is definitely not. I mean,
It's
Alan Wake
not
2 is
fucking
just a
woke.
game with
Just
multiple
because
characters.
there's a black protagonist doesn't mean a game is woke. And if you say so, you're racist. That's plain and simple.
Yeah, that's a weird thing to even say about Alan Wake 2. I could see you.
Yeah, there's so many reasons for so many things in that game. It's there's no. If you play Saints Row, that's something I consider a woke game because they took a lot
remake,
of edge away.
Or sorry, the new one. Yeah.
Yes, for example, that's a good example because they basically took away what made Saints Row good and made it this generic mess of like no one can be unique because everybody has to be the same because we're afraid of having any difference in equality. That's what I consider woke. Having a black protagonist or whatever is not woke, okay? It's stupid. But yeah, there's issues with Sweet Baby Inc. They've been involved with a lot of these types of games, and I never really looked into it that much, but I know that they consult for some like diversity shit. I don't know why they consulted them. I don't think a lot of people know why, but yeah.
Sailor Mercury says Final Fantasy VII Rebirth was hurt by exclusivity and some people not being blown away from remake. Also, being a full game split into 3 means some people are waiting for the trilogy to be done. That's fair.
And Chris, Saga was not supposed to be white. Okay, they showed that trailer back in fucking 2015, 2014. A lot of things can change. If you haven't played Alan Wake, if you played Alan Wake, you'd understand why Saga is the way she is, dude. Like, there's literally reasons for why she is the way she is. She was not supposed to be white. That was like, if someone releases a trailer for like a concept of a game like 20 years ago, you think something changes because of wokeness? Like, seriously, that's such a stupid comment that you obviously didn't play the game.
I don't even know what any of that means. Eternal.
There was a trailer they showed in like one of the old games. Yeah. But anyways.
Eternal CMO says the thing is Remedy advertised Alan Wake 2 as a true horror survival game. It's more like a mashup of genres with horror elements and a bit of inventory that you barely manage. I don't think there's any personally, I don't think there's any difference between what they advertise. Not difference. What I mean is I don't think the impact of what they advertised versus what you got probably affected anybody. It was what we got. Like, I mean,
yeah, of course.
I know people who do for sure think of Alan Wake as survival horror because there are elements of it. The depth of it might change, might be hardcore, like hardcore sci-fi versus sci-fi, but the big issue with it is horror. And I mean, we've seen that. Like, it doesn't matter what we say. Horror is a tag that hits harder than most other tags. It just is. It's I mean, that's something that we can, I mean, it's the same way as like if you talk to a certain group that loves visual novels and you say this game is a third-person shooter, there's a chance that contingent isn't going to be super interested. And with horror, it just happens to be that a lot of people who play games, horror to them might be more what they want to watch for 2 hours versus be immersed in for 12. Being immersed in for a horror game for 12 hours can be pretty... Like, there's taxing? It can be taxing for people. There's a lot going on, and if it's 12 hours and now it hinges on you doing things, you know, there can be definitely can be some issues.
Yeah, I wanted to replay it for the new game plus thing they added, but I thought of the what was it called, not the rec room, the old people's the retirement home, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to go through all that again. Shit is taxing, dude.
Eternal says there's some things borrowed from newer RE games. It's just not very deep. Yeah, I would agree with that. I think when we look at how deep it is, that matters. Horror matters. Also, Epic, whether they got money or not, it's either not enough or how it all worked financially. They spent a lot. I think there's some stuff that goes on in Alan Wake that we love, and that I would hate that they removed, but that to me indicates there was some money spent not on the game. I don't want to say any more, but there's a couple things that happened in that game that I've questioned how much it must have cost to do, and yet it was a very short thing or a small amount. There were certain, the TV show stuff, that kind of stuff, where I'm like, it's almost like going the Twin Peaks route, where instead of being a game during some of these parts, it was fantastic to experience. But maybe that cost them, Who knows how much that costs to do some of those things. Let's see. Sailor Mercury says people shouldn't use concept trailers or art to compare to the final product. Yeah, if I was making a game, you know what I'd do? I would just make sure that I would put up trailers I would make sure everybody knew it was a work in progress and everything could change. And then right before, like, let's say 3 months before, start releasing your trailers with the content, like,
it was like a random scene in Quantum Break. It wasn't even that, like, crazy. It was like a 1 second scene. And remember in the beginning, there's like a TV and you can see a trailer for it.
Oh, yeah. No, I didn't even remember that. Yarita says, now I want to see a Fear remake or a horror shooter.
Oh, Fear is good, man. I never played. Good. Did you play the second and third? I only really played the first one.
I played most of the first one, or I played mostly the first one, as in I beat that one, and then played some of 2. I can't even remember there was a 3. I own it because I know I saw that I own a Fear package of some kind that I got, but it could have been a review package. No, that would have been too early. But Fear was more interesting for the tech and the shooter stuff. How the AI
really that horror.
Talked, but it wasn't for me in how it all worked out. It was a good game though. Just because it wasn't for me doesn't mean it's not a good game. It's its own thing, and it did a good job. I mean, obviously the amount of people who love Fear, obvious that's a good one. Anamaru says Bethesda did a smart thing. Put out the most generic landscape in TES6 title in 5-second trailer, and change everything. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, fans are having
just the field.
Fans have this weird thing where different fans, where they hold on to stuff while others like us are like, okay, we've been here long enough, we know things change. Then other people get mad anything changes, so you really can't win. What you have to do is deliver a good game, and then I think for the most part, people will look at it. I mean, you'll still get somebody saying, "Here's my 8-hour analysis on Witcher 3 not being good," but for the most part. That's later, and it's after a bunch of people have said Witcher 3 is good. So,
and you get the opposite sometimes, where it's like, going back to it, it's actually better than Mass Effect Andromeda is actually a good game.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe not that game, but no, yeah. I especially when we're talking about all these kind of things, it's not too crazy to assume that there's an expectation when there's a video that fakes gameplay that it is gameplay. I think that's one of the big things that pops up now in particular for me is when I do see something switch, I get a little bit like, or not switch, but dumbed down graphically, that kind of stuff. I understand that they do it, but it's like, why'd you show me the thing in the first place? Like, why didn't you just, walk away from it? And then Rise of Ronin sales pacing ahead of Neo and its sequel. And that is, I know, that was surprising to me.
That makes me sad, man. But it's probably because of difficulty.
Oh, because it's easier?
Because there's difficulty options and you can choose easy and just like lay. But I'm guessing because Neo 2 is a better game in every single way imaginable. But
yeah, I was really surprised at that. I was not expecting to see that. Like, I don't know. I guess I just... Rise of the Ronin feels really patchy. Neo 1 and 2 do not. They feel like they serve their player base, where a lot of people I've talked to who played Ronin feels like it doesn't serve any database or any gamer base. It's sort of scatterbrained.
I guess that's why companies streamline things. There you have it. They sell more, so apparently, god damn it. I didn't. Well, I have Rise of the Ronin.
Do you? Yeah, I'd be interested to see what you thought of that because I was pretty... I mean, straight up, I was pretty disappointed in that game.
Same.
The story was sort of the way they tell it and little things you can do were great, but once you start diving into it, it feels like no matter what you do, you're going to end up at the same part a lot of times. And I don't compare it to Baldur's Gate. I didn't expect it to have 8,000 branches, and then the open world part was really sort of jank and just very Dynasty Warriors kind of blank. It was like a blank place to just walk around.
We got Rise of Ronin Defenders. That's awesome. But anyway,
well, you'll always have. I think for Rise of Ronin in particular, you'll have Defenders because it still fits in the almost Stellar Blade in a weird way, but like those open areas, open places to go. It is samurai and stuff. Which there's a contingent that will always just like a samurai game too. And let's be honest, man, Neo 1 and 2, while I like them, are rough as hell. They are hard. I don't mean rough as in hard. Rough. I meant hard. Yeah,
they're difficult games.
They're difficult. They are definitely Dark Souls styled games in that they lean far towards that. Rise of Ronin doesn't.
It's just
even
Rise of Ronin in that direction. It just for me, it falls apart when it's like it just feels like the same thing, the open world thing where you go to different points. I mean, the combat's pretty good, but the thing is, if you expect one thing from that company, Team Ninja, you know, they do so much with the combat, and they give you so much freedom to really style that combat the way you want, and pull off stuff that's really, really cool. So going to Rise of Ronin and feeling just how static and more, you know, more rock paper scissorsy it is, where it's like, oh, you just have to switch to the stance that's stronger than the other guy's stance, and it just falls apart for me.
Yeah,
Oh, go
ahead.
And yeah, I just felt like the game feel itself wasn't as satisfying as Neo 2. There's no hate for the game, and if you enjoy it, you enjoy it and you like it, and there's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying my personal reasons for why I didn't enjoy the game that much.
I think especially and it was so weird because it's like, to hear it's so funny to me because there's these other games that deliver a certain part of their title in a way that if I experience it somewhere else, it's so glaring. And like the Dynasty Warriors part, because the open world did feel like it was janky, it was like blasé, it was, and riding the horse looked like crap. All those kind of things were very basic, which is how I feel like Dynasty Warriors worlds are presented. They're more about, here's a bunch of guys to fight. Rise of Ronin is one guy to fight, but it's, well, not one, but a couple. But it still has that janky overworld that a lot of games deliver, and they all, to me, they all feel like there's a level of detail you put into an open world to get it open world, and that's it. That's your requirement. Then you have a level of detail to make it somewhat interactive. Then you have like a Bethesda game where everything is interactive. And when it was funny because we were playing Dynasty Warriors in the stream about 2 weeks ago. Somebody was playing, and they're like, "Oh, it does, like the open world jank. This does remind me of Ronin." But what's interesting about that is that I actually feel Rise of Ronin reminds me of another game, and it's at least its initial response, which is Days Gone. Days Gone also did the same thing everybody had done. It did an open world zombie one. And there were a lot of people who were like, it doesn't really hit in this place, or it doesn't hit in this place. But the world, I thought, in Days Gone, Days Gone, right? Yeah, I thought Days Gone world it looked better.
It felt more quality. Like,
dude, it looks better than Rise. It's weird because, you know, you see those years and you hope that if you're going to do open world, it'll look interesting. And you see, you know, the characters and how they move and what goes on. You're like, wow, we're this many years later and we're still seeing people step down below. And I don't mean to compare them like direct competitors. What I mean is you get the reaction I see is sort of that B-tier level game, not AAA, but like Days Gone, I think, has been patched up enough that you could say it now hits where it was. And luckily, Rise had no issues technically. Well, nothing near what Days Gone did. Days Gone had issues everywhere. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. It feels clumsy, I guess. And did you like the combat in Rise? Because I actually thought the combat in Rise didn't go deep enough and also didn't go shallow enough. It once again hit in the middle.
It's middling for me too. Yeah, I mean, I as far as parry mechanics, I like the parry to be on the same button as L1, like the same button as block. I like the Sekiro style stuff. The thing is, I don't think anyone really did parrying as well as Sekiro yet. So if you're going to rely on a parry mechanic game, I feel like you really got to hit it well. Because Sekiro knocked it out of the park. And then obviously the biggest thing for me, I mean, Neo 2's one of the best things about it was the stances, and like, you know, they just completely shit on it after we've been talking for years and years how we don't like Ghost of Tsushima's stances. They basically did that. I really like the Bond thing. I think it has cool potential. I didn't play long enough to really see where it goes with that. That's something really cool. Like switching characters is pretty cool. Pulling cool stuff off, like, you know, blocking a bullet, you know, parrying a bullet and have it go up in flames and killing someone. That stuff is really, really cool. There's some cool flashy things, but the feel of it, there just felt like something was missing from there. Yeah, it didn't feel the quality aspect. It felt a little bit less quality than, for example, Ghost of Tsushima, which I would prefer Rise of the Ronin's combat over, but Ghost of Tsushima feels better. Like, it just feels like a more game, a better game in terms of quality to me.
Yeah, that I like the combat better in so I like the combat better in Ronin only because I hate the rock paper scissors Well, I don't hate it. It's just that after a long time of playing,
compared
Ghost,
to Neo,
was
especially
blah, blah, blah.
stances.
Yeah,
night and day.
But I do like I like the pairing and all that kind of stuff in it. I did find that maybe something that happened with those games is they lack a tiny bit of edge in their protagonist as well. It makes me buy in to being interested in them. I did like the starting. I'm not going to spoil it because it's still pretty early game, but I did like making the two characters in Rise of Ronin.
Same,
and all that kind of stuff that happens. I thought that was maybe, and it did some stuff with it. Maybe it could have done more, but I did like that. I thought the character creator was actually, I made what I consider to be some pretty cool looking characters in that character creator too. I was pretty happy with the character creator.
Same.
But the one thing I don't want people to do is like, whether you like it or I guess liking it wouldn't cause this, but if you dislike it, let's say you hate it, I don't actually want them to not try again. That's the thing, is like, okay, so maybe it didn't hit for me as well as it could have, but it's obvious that they want to go that route. I would love to see a Rise of Ronin 2. I have no issues with that. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah. Like that's the thing, is there's this weird thing that pops up where it's like, oh, it doesn't hit with everybody, or it didn't hit as well as people thought, therefore they need to move on. And instead I look at it and I'm like, actually, I think they're almost there. They like, it feels like they're almost there. Yeah. But I wouldn't want them to change a bunch again either and go, oh, we're going to now make a 2D scroll or whatever. It's just like, okay, you tried. It's close. Let's go ahead and try again. I think that would be cool. So it's selling well is exciting for that aspect, because I don't care if I didn't love it. Like Days Gone, if they want to do a Days Gone 2, I'd be right there excited for a Days Gone 2. If it turned out to be good, that'd be awesome. If it didn't, it's just a bad game. Shouldn't be the end of a company's ability to try again. And that seems like where we're at for a lot of people, where it's like, okay, they failed, never do that again. Like chastising a child. And it's just odd. I assume cost of games is why people start talking about that.
Yeah, like, put your resources in something else.
Yeah. Let's see. Why Yama says Ronin is exactly the same. Middle stance is good. Health damage. High stance is good. Low stamina damage. And low stance is bigger parry window and more speed.
That's not all what stances were about Neo. There were a lot of skills you would get, and a lot of combos you can curate, basically, depending on how you switch between
that's
stances.
not. I thought he was talking about a different game. Yeah, there's a lot more in
but
Neo.
Even though that may be true about Rise of Ronin, it still showed you that, okay, if you're using this stance, you might be under the enemy, better than the enemy. That stance works on the enemy. If it doesn't work on the enemy, you're not going to be able to stagger the enemy. I don't like that rock paper scissors stuff. I don't like the Simon Says reactive type of thing. I like making my own kind of theory crafting my own combos, and it's just different tastes. Like it's my taste is different than yours. That's all it is. Yeah.
That's why I'm hoping for another one, because if they get towards my taste, it doesn't necessarily mean they have to remove what somebody's enjoying from the first one.
For sure.
To me, there's actually only like 4 or 5 things I would want in a Rise of the Ronin 2. And I don't want it to be Neo level difficulty or Neo. See, that's the other thing. When a game is super difficult, usually you put in really all those complex systems so that a person can learn that difficulty and find all these ways around it and stuff. That was the other thing about Rise. It's not hard. And so, or at least it wasn't for me. And so then there's this odd curve that happens where if a game isn't super hard, I have a hard time learning stuff because there's no reason. And that's happened before in other games that I've noticed, where if you find, because you're all, why would I do this? I could if I was a gamer that, let's say, wanted to not speed run it, but that was the only game I was playing and I was really wanting to dive into it. And remember, this is the same discussion that happened with the Xbox one, the Woo or whatever. Oh man, I can't even remember the name of that game, but it came out last. Wolong. It's the same sort of discussion that happened around Wolong, which I actually found their difficulty to be variable. There were times with that, there were things in Wolong I wanted to, and that was the thing I was trying to tell people in the podcast last time when we were talking about Wolong, is that just because I don't like Wulong, I also would like to see another one there, because there were things I did like in Wulong. There were like,
and I like their approach to more acrobatic style Souls-likes. Not every Souls-like has to be stiff and shit. I like that there's jump buttons and crazy shit you can do being a ninja and stuff. But I do like the complexity of Neo, and I felt like that those Stranger's Paradise had more complexity than those last two titles. They did, but the level design...
I'm not saying they didn't. I'm just, you mentioned that game, and it just... And I'm an environment person, and that was the big thing. That game
there was
no
environment.
Bro.
There's no environment.
There wasn't even environments
in
that
like
game,
old
man.
Final Fantasy dungeons, like from the 90s.
Anu Maru, says Wolong DLC 2 difficulty was brutal, but everything else was baby mode, very uneven. I don't know if baby mode's uneven, but I would agree with the uneven part. I do know that in that game, there were ways to make it so that it was really easy. I did like that, where you could do particular things to make it easy if you want. A little like, and a little like Sifu, where if you aren't hitting hard enough, you can age and hit harder, but, you'll start to lose hit points later on. I can't remember the ages, but, there were different things. I like that kind of stuff. Stop the Stranger talk. Yeah, Stranger was, there, dude, did you beat Stranger of Paradise? Did you beat
listen, man.
I'm not. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I didn't beat it, okay, because I didn't beat it, but there's it's charming in a way. You don't like that word, but it feels like a parody, all right. And but I like job systems, all right, and it went crazy with the job systems, like the way you can combine two jobs for another third job. There's a lot of jobs there that you can, like Marauder and stuff that stemmed from 2 other jobs or 3 other jobs, and that shit was really, really cool, just kind of leveling those up. But the dungeons do get boring, man, after a while. Like squares upon squares of like boring ass locations was not the most enticing. It didn't make me want to continue and beat it or anything.
Thanks,
it's just
RG, for saying you didn't skip the ads. Yeah, so here's the thing, dude. If a game's got a great combat system, but it is hyper unengaging getting there, that's what I had with it. Like, so anytime you talk about this stuff, my brain has a really hard time tracking how somebody could have even got to that point, but again, it doesn't matter because I'm looking at like in a different light. But
no, it's completely right, because the locations do you need something there to keep going. But come on, man, like imagine like after a huge lore dump this girl was talking about, he was like bullshit, and then just listened to Limp Bizkit and walked away. Like, come on, man,
the attitude stuff awesome, was fun. Man. You mean? Yeah,
that was funny, man. That was really funny, dude.
I would say also,
chaos.
I don't know what it is, but if I exist in the world, no matter how cool my character is or doing stuff, if the world itself is not super existent, if it's not, then it becomes this. Yeah, and Wolong had some stuff that I really liked. There was a couple bosses I really liked. There was obviously some systems. I guess that's the thing you could say with a lot of these games. They hit and they try to do a bunch of stuff, and 2 or 3 things you look at and you're like, oh, I love that. But then something in it is like not hitting perfect for you. And
for sure.
For me, it was definitely the environments there. But I was asking people what games they were looking forward to this fall. First of all, RG said I didn't skip the ads. Thank you very much, because it helps the channel. Eternal says April was an impressive month for PS Plus. Guess they all can't be bangers, but there's a couple indies I wanted. That's cool. I haven't checked those. Or somebody posted them in our Discord. I'll have to check. Let's see. Jimbotron says Dragon Ball Sparking 0 and Warhammer Space Marine 2. Kiggs says Star Wars he says, honestly, Star Wars Outlaws. I'm very interested in that one. T Monk says it's actually kind of crazy how influential Wukong and Journey to the West are to all forms of media, but we're just now getting high-quality looking games. Let's see. Looking forward to Manor Lords. NC says Avowed, Kingdom Come, and Kingdom Come. See, it's easy to forget about Kingdom Come because they announced it and it's just sort of coming and it's like boom.
Yeah.
Kingdom Come is definitely Space Marine 2, Kingdom Come, and Outlaws are super high. Hellblade is super duper high. Hellblade is probably just the top because I really liked Hellblade 1, and Hellblade 2 looks to continue that almost in all the same form, which I'm excited for. Black Myth Wukong and Stalker 2.
Yay, Stalker 2. Finally, someone said
Dude,
Stalker 2.
see, this is the thing, man. I don't think we're gonna remember 2024 in the same way as 2023. But I also think there's a little bit to be said that COVID and stuff were probably still occurring a little bit in 2023. There was a lot of people hadn't returned to work or still were in the process of. There was more time for maybe some of this stuff. 2024 has not been bad. The starting of this month is low. You've got Homeworld VR, which I think looks amazing. You have Homeworld itself. You have some games last month and the month before, but I actually think this fall looks to be awesome. And one of the reasons why is because I think there's just enough to be able to experience most of the big ones instead of the last couple of years where you're all,
yeah, that's true.
All right, I have 9 games. Yeah, I have 9 games on my list, and which of those 9 am I gonna spend time with? I think the end of this year, Stalker 2 alone, I'm just assuming it'll be like Stalker 1 in the same ways, which means that'll eat up, 60 to 100 hours?
Yeah.
Probably for the people who like it. If it's
depending
good.
on how much you also want to interact with the AI life stuff, sandbox systems. Right. I'm hoping that there will be a lot of sandbox systems.
And what I like, dude, is Hellblade is completely, in every way, the opposite.
Yes.
I love that.
Curated,
Hellblade's like
very
curated. Here
focused.
We're going through this thing. They've said it's 7 to 8 hours. It's about the same length, or it's a little longer, I think they said, than the first one. It's like, okay, that's that thing which will not interact in any way with Stalker 2. It's like a fucking sports game difference by that point, which is awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then Black Monkey Man. I cannot wait.
Yeah.
I think, dude, I just can't wait because it's a different character type. It's I just want to see how it all goes out. I
love staffs. We don't get many staff games.
The character, or the world looks cool. They haven't been super transparent on what it is yet, like how exactly it will all play together, but they've showed combat that I think looks doable for middle level players. So there might be people who get into it who don't. Maybe it's not Neo 2 level. Well, I don't know if you said you thought it was difficult. I definitely had some difficulty issues in Neo 2.
It's the most difficult Souls-like I've played.
That's what I felt, but I know somebody's going to say they beat it with one button. But it's just like that one was difficult. If they level it down to where it's like a good middle ground, where a person who can learn some of the stuff without really requiring a bunch and get to a good place in that, I don't know. That might be weirdly like my highest. I don't know. I just like what I've seen from that game, and it's always looked doable, regardless of what the internet will tell you. I am sorry.
It doesn't look too ambitious. Like, why do people say, "Oh my god"?
I don't know, but dude, there was clipping in the trailers and all this stuff, and you see people saying, "Oh, this is impossible," and now we know it's not. But it's like even back then, it's like, what are you talking about? There's nothing in there that looks impossible. It looks exactly.
What is it, Unreal Engine 5?
Possible. Yeah, it looks exactly like what you would expect. Cheesy says the enemy design looks insane. Yeah, enemy design matters to me in those kind of games too, because it's what you're facing. If you're facing the same guy a lot, he better look fucking cool to make me think there's a reason why I am.
Yeah, especially when you can tell what kind of moves he'll be doing based on the look, and then they do moves that what do you call it? That kind of makes sense for the way they look. That
for the way they look, when they marry and he looks spindly. He looks rangy. He doesn't look like a big. Well, that is one thing though, right? I haven't been able to see how they're going to. So stats will matter, but I haven't seen the monkey guy get huge and bulky like the Rock, depending on the stats. So that will be interesting to see how they play stats into it.
I wonder if will there be stat? Like I'm guessing there will be stats.
I'm guessing there's stats. I mean, I'm talking on my ass. I just realized I don't think we've seen a stat screen in the game at all.
Because like it's just you and the staff. Because Wukong, is a very it's a well-known character that uses a staff. I don't think you'll be able to go crazy off the beaten path with that with the build. Maybe like Sekiro or something. Which is nothing wrong with that, man. But staff gameplay, we need more. It's very focused on that game. Like you'll see staffs in games, but they're usually just like you can attack normally. But with the move sets they've shown, it looks really really cool with what you can do with that. And extend it and do some crazy shit.
So what they could do is they could have multiple staves, and the staves are what adjust the stats. So you have a staff with like balls at the end. And that's your strength build. You have stats, that would be. But they got to make sure that if you have a middle build, the staff still looks cool. Because what I don't like is when middle choices make a middling looking character. And that happens a lot of times in games where it's like, okay, leather armor looks fucking sweet. Chainmail is like, oh. And then you get steel mail, it's ornate, and they look like a demon. And you're like, why? Well, then I look like a jackass if I'm in middle ground stuff. Figure out a way to make every single thing look cool. The staff needs to look. If you're generic staff man and you choose like a middle build, that staff needs to send off some.
It's like the issue.
Go ahead.
A lot of games like Fable and Infamous had, where if you go good, you're just gonna get the boring ass abilities that don't look cool. You gotta go evil, man. You gotta go with the red abilities.
Yep, exactly. I want I think that's why I don't remember if you have played it, but KOTOR 2 worked so well because they showed, Kreia, who's like the gray Jedi, but she was interesting enough that the gray Jedi, the middle choice mattered, or at least was a thing versus the purple lightning.
More
a lot of times you see a Jedi and you're like, come on, what?
Yeah. I said more love for centrists.
Yeah.
Let's
see. Eternal says performance in games has been hit or miss this gen. Every gen, baby. Every single game, every single gen. Back to the Sega Genesis Atari 2600 days. It will never change. Developers will try to push shit too far.
PS3.
Fallout 3 and New Vegas were raw on release.
On the console.
Raw. Yeah, there's some rose-tinted glasses. They're not even glasses. They're fucking they're like bottles people are looking through when they remember those. I know because I experienced it with others and we trying to get the game to work, or what can you do? Don't pick this item up, or don't put it on the table because you leave and come back in and the apple will kill somebody in Skyrim, or what, these come on, man. Yeah, it's been everywhere. JB says August through the rest of the year looks loaded. I think that's fair. But guys, don't forget that like this month we do have some games like 100 Door, the remake 100 Door, the Mario RPG is coming out at the end of the month.
The Paper Mario
you've got
one.
Hellblade, you've got Homeworld RTS Space. Like, to me, that's the magic of. I like RTS, but adding a third dimension to me is magical. There's something about having depth, and I don't know why, because you're not gaining speed like a World War II plane if you dive on somebody in space. There's no fucking gravity in that way.
Right.
But it's still,
I
like it. I like to spin around and look up at the ship and move them around.
Sure.
I'm excited as hell for that.
For sure.
JB says 33 Immortals has a. The multi. Like, what is that? Like a 33 multiplayer game, and it's a boss.
You go in, and it's basically raids, like MMO raids.
That's what it looks like.
It looks really cool. Like, there's a lot of AoEs dropping, and you go around and you fight shit. And I wonder how. Well, you won't need to communicate with all 33 people for sure, but I wonder how it'll work out. Like, if a couple people can ruin it for everybody or not. I'm very interested in that game because that type of big team raids really interests me.
Vapor for Blood just mentioned something I got to point out because he's absolutely right. Original Mass Effect on Xbox 360 had rough frame rate. I would say it was less frame rate for me than the texture pop in. Do you remember the big issue that Mass Effect had? So you would walk into a level and everybody would be low textured for a good deal of time, and then it would go pop, and it was like, it was so bad, man. And no matter where you went, it would be like boom, and everybody was just textured, and there was some nightmare fuel in that one. Let's see. Eternal says, the other thing I liked is how Hellblade ended in a way that was open to interpretation. Yeah. Deagle says, Kingdom comes when it feels like it. Good play on words, buddy. Kingdom Come, I like the idea that they're sticking with their engine. Their explanation was good. The engine isn't the greatest, but they made it very clear that, it's the engine they know, the problems they understand, and to me, I think that that's absolutely fair and probably the way it should be. Trying to switch to Unreal and get it out in the same amount of time most likely wouldn't have happened, or any other engine. But I do want to play Kingdom Come 2. I mean, it's going to be his continuation of story. Probably same style of combat.
The first one, yeah.
Ooh, see, I just warned somebody away of doing. They were like, I'm thinking about playing the first one because I've never played it, and I'm going to play a second. I was like, that's like when you said you were going to play. I can't remember what it was, but you were going to play a bunch of games in a row.
Dawn.
Maybe it was that.
Yeah,
that's why I don't feel it was that. It was something that we were all talking about, and one of you,
said
maybe
this
it wasn't
multiple
you.
times. Maybe it was me because I always go like, "Oh, I'm gonna play all the games."
Yeah, and I was like, "No, you're not. No, you're not. It's just not going to happen." The amount of time alone, it's the fact that iterations usually on sequels are a little bit of the same. So the idea of playing Kingdom Come 1 and then 2, I don't know. It just seems like that could be rough. Watch a video. Go to Gamer's Little Playground and watch a movie video. Yeah.
Or that, yeah.
Shrek says, Morrowind was scuffed on OG Xbox. Fell through so many floors because I was running fast. And the game crashed on loading screens. I mean,
but we loved it nonetheless because we always were like, okay, but look what it's doing, though.
Yep. Yeah, look what it's doing has fallen to the wayside a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean,
True.
I guess rightfully so.
Look at what it doesn't have, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then Shrek says, just wait for Kingdom Come 2. Don't burn yourself out with the first. However, the first goes on sale for way cheap now. Yeah, well, I mean, the first has been on sale many times. And it's got... I saw some people complaining about its DLC. I personally feel like they were worth playing. But again, that's when they came out. So it's a little bit different from there.
Mm-hmm.
Next up, I wanted to talk a little bit about something different. It's still games. But Digital Foundry was saying Steam Deck tracing, ray tracing versus Asus ROG Ally, it works, but should you use it? They did a video here in the last 5 hours. At least that's when it was posted. Dude, so I know you don't do handhelds, but I'm already starting to feel like this is beginning, where we're starting to get unrealistic expectations of those things. Where it's like, we're at the point now where it's like, oh, ray tracing needs to be enabled on these, blah, blah, blah. And it came up in a conversation in the Discord chat. I opened it up to everything, and the first thing that was mentioned was, will Switch 2 have full DLSS and ray tracing? And I'm just sitting there going like, you guys do realize what these are, right? They are so many levels below, because they have to be. I mean, otherwise your desktop would be the size of a handheld. Like it wouldn't have it wouldn't have a 4090 that was a PS5.
As big as like 20 handhelds, man.
Dude, a 4090. Ignore that. Let's talk about something else. The 2080s had dual slots. The 3080s have had that. There was probably a 1080 with dual slots. I think mine was single. But on the Switch 2, I don't know about you. I don't expect ray tracing on the Switch 2 in the fact of like Cyberpunk level. They might do something basic, which sounds like what they're doing, but like, just maybe some shadows done in a certain way. And then DLSS, there's been back and forth on like what chip supports DLSS and what doesn't, but I think that regardless, Nintendo will have some DLSS style. Like Sony's doing their own, Microsoft's doing their own.
I think it would be not behoove them, but I think it would be cool because it's a portable, it's going to be, so having some AI there to boost frames would be really, really nice.
Yeah, even if it's FSRs, which is open source, figure something out, as long as it looks good. But I mean, those smaller screens, that is one problem. You're getting to a resolution where when you use DLSS on a small screen, the initial resolution is pretty low, so they can still look a little rough. Because I was doing it on Outer Worlds and messing around with lossless as well as the internal. They have FSR. Is it 2? That's the other thing I will say. FSR 3, or whatever the newest version of FSR is, looks pretty good compared to the original. The original FSR was a
even
nightmare.
In Gray Zone. Yeah.
Oh yeah, true. You because you're running it with what DLSS or
DLSS? No? Yeah, I tried FSR though. Yeah.
Did you try FSR?
It looks really good. It doesn't usually FSR in my experience has that looks blurry, but in this one it didn't.
Let me tell you something weird that happened too. Speaking about FSR and stuff. So Starfield has FSR and DLSS.
Yes.
And on my DLSS system with the 4090, there's something that looks, I don't know how to describe it. I swear to God, at times, maybe it could be my settings that I have, but FSR, there's times where their version, it looks a little bit better. I don't know. It could just be that I have a setting in all the options that's different. And so when it upscales in DLSS, it looks weird. But on the handhelds, they have frame gen on both, and I got to say, I've ended up using FSR a lot on the handheld. I don't know, there was something on DLSS that felt almost a little laggy or something. There was something weird on that, but it could just be, again, I could have a setting on that's just a little too much. But
I remember I downloaded a thing like a DLSS 3.5 or something on. Oh yeah, it didn't have DLSS back in the day.
Right,
yeah.
It had FSR originally.
Yeah, I haven't tried Starfield on my new system. So the last I played it on was the 2080. So it'll be cool to go back to that and try that. Yeah, but I remember, the DLSS wasn't a thing. I had to download it. Yeah.
Yeah. Hal says it won't have frame gen because frame gen 30 to 60 isn't viable with lag. That is incorrect. That's already been shown to be incorrect multiple times. It also depends on the game. Would you do a shooter that is competitive? No. But we've definitely now seen where it's absolutely useful for games that are not ultra competitive. And the the Switch, I don't consider a Switch game as being competitive. I wouldn't play a game on the Switch 2 competitively.
Yeah. Plus, you're not gonna be moving with a mouse with like polling rate that's higher than that. Yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting to see, and especially because when you look at the Switch doing NVIDIA and you look at the others doing AMD, you've got all kinds of different things that you can do. So, yeah, it'll be. There's just something that I noticed. I don't know. I noticed this also when I was streaming GeForce to the PC and GeForce to because that one, of course, is the cloud. And when I was playing it on the cloud and was switching between FSR and DLSS 2, there was just something a little wonky with that. But there's so many versions now of DLSS and FSR, and you have little switchers you can use. You can't on GeForce, obviously. I should have been clear on that, but you can't switch them out. But I've seen people. There's a mod out there, right, that lets you inject new DLSS into old ones or something. I don't mess too much with that, but
there's like some stuff where you could download the files and just replace them.
And replace them, inject them in. That's pretty cool. We'll just have to see, but I think that every company is doing something now. It just feels like every single company realizes that upscaling the old style, which is integer style, just isn't exactly the same. Shrek says, is the NVIDIA streaming service any good? So, yeah, I would say that right now GeForce is working pretty well. The only problem with GeForce is they're a different executable, and so therefore there'll be times where the patch doesn't work, or it takes a little while for the patch. You also can't run mods in the normal way, or at all in some games. There's a couple that Steam Workshop seems to work. I think it was Stellaris that worked. But, yeah, I would say overall, streaming is awesome if you know what it's offering. And if you have a PC that maybe, isn't necessarily up to spec, or you want to stream to a handheld, very worthwhile. But you have to pay the cost, see for yourself. I mean, that's the thing. Let's see here. FSR sometimes looks better in Starfield, in my honest opinion. Yeah, it is weird. I don't know. Just could be some kind of weird, something to do with how they handle it. FSR might be making strides. Yeah, they are. They're all improving, man. This is the thing.
Is XeSS better now?
So, Intel's? Yeah, it is better. It is better. I think there was a game that was recently, somebody did a write-up on it, and it could be absolutely, missing that it was Digital Foundry, but somebody did a write-up on it where, in one game in particular here recently, its image quality was better than at least one of them.
Okay.
So, but that's the thing. They're all trying to prove. And remember, this has already been done back in the day. Sony was already messing with these, or Quantum Break, which had the worst upscaling known to man. That game was raw. Terrence says, I'm interested to see the PS5 Pro proprietary upscaling. I think that kind of stuff is exciting, man, especially for certain games. Getting it to look better and still have some kind of performance is always exciting, but we'll have to see. It'll be trade-offs. AI seems to be dropped in everything now. Everything. Yeah. And I don't know what it even means. You'll see everything seems to be AI. It's like, this has AI, your fridge has AI, blah, blah, blah has AI. And sometimes you're sitting there going, what does that even mean? AMD AI chips on the or AI chips on their new chips, and you're on their new like CPUs, and you're like, why? What are we where's the what are we doing with it is the big question.
What is the intelligence? Yeah.
The other thing I want to talk about is Sandland's reviews weren't great.
I heard it was pretty middling game.
Yeah. I really want to check it out. Anybody in chat, if you've checked out Sandland, I'd like to know if you liked it, if you didn't like it, what you didn't. I was surprised because what I saw in the previews and stuff looked like it was going to be, sort of a heartfelt, like,
it's based on
continuation
the manga, right?
of the manga. Yeah. So I was really excited to see it. And I don't know
what it like a survival
Open Critic is.
Is it like an open world?
No, not survival. More like it's because you build a base and you like help people around the world, and it's open world kind of thing. Let me look here at where it is now on Open Critic. 72.
Okay.
I mean, that is
That is average right now. Yeah.
Yeah, it is average, but it feels like it's low average. I guess. I don't know.
Low average, yeah. 75
maybe that's
would be like mid-average.
Yeah, maybe that's unfair to say. I just feel like I personally thought it would rate higher than that just from what I saw, but I don't know exactly what the issues are. Terrence says it's not bad.
Okay.
Okay, but that... Oh, the demo. There was a demo. I'll check. Yeah, not bad. What is...
It's not bad. ...
Yeah, I never know how to take it's not bad. Is it... Okay, how about this? If it's not bad, are there things that are good about it? Like really good? If there's something really good, you can sort of bite into it. Anything else for the Tarkov? Because I saw your post. Was there anything else with the Tarkov drama?
Yeah, so remember one of the biggest complaints was the Edge of Darkness owners being less than, and they're not the limited edition thing, not including a lot of stuff. They went ahead and posted another post today. Mr. Nikita, Mr. Trainfender, Mr. Gene Burns, the CEO, the COO. He posted a new thing where now for owners of the Edge of Darkness edition, access to co-op PvE mode with persistent progression will be given out in waves, planning to start tomorrow. So they added more pay-to-win stuff to the game, but gave it to this was their answer. I just feel like they're very divorced with the actual community, but they said the Edge of Darkness edition will have faster insurance return, increased personal trader purchase limits by 20%, increased starting PMC karma, access to a special stimulant craft, increased charisma skill, nostalgia quest line, which will unlock a thing called the legacy device. It's a unique item. Oh, it won't unlock it. You'll just be given this unique device, which is the ability to call in a friendly BTR. And once called, the item will go into cooldown. So you can call in a BTR. But if you don't have the edition, you can work for it. I mean, that's one thing, is like you can do quests and then unlock these devices. I don't know how hard or easy it'll be, but it's so funny to me that they added this device. But yeah, everyone will be able to purchase the PvE mode separately now. And for everyone, they increased the stash size by 2 lines. So yeah, the unique item that you can call in friends will only be active in PvE mode. So they walked that back, which is good. You won't be able to call in your friends in the PvP mode. Yeah. Yeah, so and then there's like a distress signal device. Wait, Mark of the Unheard is the one where I think scavs over 50 meters won't be able to hit you or something. No, the unique item distress signal device, where this is the one where you can call in players. Never mind. It will be available in both PvP and PvE modes, but the item must be recharged in the hideout using high-end items. But you can work towards unlocking this item or whatever. It's just they're all over the place now. They're all over the place now. I don't know why they're adding. They were super against pay to win stuff when they first when they first announced the game. They were like very, very against microtransactions and pay to win, but they're just adding more, I guess. I don't know.
That feels all over the place, to the point to where it's hard to actually understand what they're saying. Like, I mean, or what they want out of it.
They're wishy-washy. They're being wishy-washy.
I know an interview that somebody did with him, or asked him a question. He said he was genuinely surprised that people were frustrated by this change or what have you. And I don't, again, I don't know any of why you would be surprised by that, especially the cost and all this kind of stuff. But them rolling all this back indicates that they're obviously taking it serious.
Yeah.
But what bothers me a little bit is no matter how much they roll back, you're still in this weird position of Tarkov's got its issues that they still haven't fixed, which is why some of you guys are running mods and all this stuff. And it feels like the focus is still switching towards this other thing, and that the people are just going to be left still not getting their fixes, no matter what happens with anything else. I don't know. Are they a big team?
That's a good question. I think they've grown a lot. The thing is, they did admit they shot themselves in the foot by making it in Unity. So there's some stuff like optimization issues that they're never gonna be able to fix. The sound issue is a really, really big thing. There's a lot of audio glitches and weirdness, and it's a game that's made for audio. It's basically like Hunt Showdown, but the difference is
Yeah.
that Hunt Showdown actually nailed the audio. These guys can't seem to nail it. And obviously the cheater problem, which is a problem that's bigger than life, or it's bigger than this game alone. You know what I mean? It's just talked more about this game because it's like, even if you're not playing ranked, there is no ranked, but even if you're like a casual player, cheating is like a huge thing because it's a hardcore game. It's a hardcore risk versus reward type of game. So that this one really drives people away, which is they also talked about doing like kind of invasive cheating, invasive anti-cheat, but for the engine, it's gonna be a huge hit on performance, they said. So they don't want to do that. There was also a video that was leaked from like 2015 or 2014 where he's talking to other Russian people or whatever about how cheating is a good thing for devs in a way because it gets people to complain, which is good publicity or something like that. So people are digging that up and and stuff like that. So he's in deep shit about all that stuff. But the funny thing is that with the update, this like crazy one that that had the Unheard edition, they did do good changes to the game itself. Like they fixed armor penetrations, like they changed the way armor penetration works, and they addressed some issues that people had with the game. So they did fix some stuff when they introduced this crazy ass $250 edition.
It feels to me like when you take 5 minutes to describe what you're rolling back in different ways, that indicates whatever your plan was pretty bad.
Yeah.
Like if you're rolling back this and this and you can do this for 2 minutes. Now, admittedly, for a Tarkov fan, that might make sense. All those words you just said. All those words you said, they don't mean anything to me. Because I don't know what calling in temporary BTR is. I don't even know what that means.
Like calling in a vehicle that can destroy people.
Oh, it's a vehicle. I thought it was a gun.
Yeah, it's
okay.
Sorry, it's calling in like a tank, basically, essentially.
Okay.
To just
all right. So to somebody like you and these others, that may matter, but I think what it does is, and I just saw people saying, "What does this mean? This is hurting my head." That's the big problem guys. Too, is that any idea of maybe being a little bit more flexible for newcomers, people maybe wanting to go into this new mode later on in the future, whatever. It's also complex and all this that I think a lot of people are just like, "Well, I'm washing my hands of this. I'm not, I'm not going to be engaged with it at all," which sucks. But it's like, to read a thesaurus to explain the changes, to me, indicates that was a pretty big mess up, whatever their plan was.
With this crazy update, they also added trailers. Not trailers, sorry, like video guide, like a whole video guide thing for new players. But all got swept under. Yeah, all these like good changes they made all got overshadowed by all these terrible additions.
I don't think you make a new mode to get yourself out of trouble financially, but I have been wondering if their lack of the micros, you said they were against pay to win and all this stuff, or against something. Yes. Maybe their status quo player also being against pay to win meant they were seeing financials that were indicating they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
100%. We're not making, we're whatever it's costing us. So they tried to figure out some way around it, which, by the way, is obviously the worst. It feels to me making a whole new mode is much less financially viable than somehow adding stuff to the original and saying, you guys are fans, here's some stuff for the original. Maybe they can't in Unity.
It's crazy. Maybe, but it's crazy because people that like, there are cosmetics in the game you can earn, but people have been saying like, please just add stuff. We'll be happy to support you by paying for cosmetics, or even just a donate button. People were asking, hey man, put a donate button on the website. Sell us cosmetics. Like we'd happily do that instead of pay to win.
Can I point out, I will defend them in one right now because of that.
Yes.
I have people who say, so I don't do the ads and stuff, and I have people say, hey, Carrick, it's fine. Put them, or not ads, but sponsorships. Put them in, we'll be fine. It's true. There is a contingent that would be fine, but you would also see 100,000 videos where somebody said, after years of stating they would not do this thing, Tarkov devs have gone back on their word, and blah, blah, blah. And so it does feel like that's a no-win situation. Because I've told you behind the scenes, well, not behind the scenes, we're talking about here, but I mean, because of how I do things, I'm locked into very particular things I can do.
For sure, yeah. It just seems in the ways to lose, they picked the worst way to lose.
Yeah, they picked the worst way to lose. Yeah, that is true. They threw the game, right? They threw the game. Yeah. That is, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how they work out of it, but I don't know how they will.
It's like you saying, now I'm going to be completely sponsored. Like, they're going to control what I say.
Exactly.
Every game is going to sponsor me.
That is true. Yeah. No, that's a better way of putting it. It's not like they're just adding a little bit. I just feel like if they did add even some, there would be a big pushback.
There would be some backlash. Yeah. There was backlash back in the day, too.
For what?
Like, even their initial editions. Like, just like being like, because the biggest $150 edition gave you the biggest stash size and gave you a bigger there's this container that you get with you into the game where anything you put in it will be saved even if you die. And the $150 edition was the biggest container, even though you can eventually unlock something that's bigger for everybody. There was still some backlash for that. Yeah.
If we agree that it is unique and that nothing plays like it, my assumption is, at least for some months, if not years, people have been trying to make other games that will compete it. So at some point, there'll be a competition there. There'll be somebody to compete.
Yeah.
I mean, how? Okay. Obviously, it's not the same game, because I'm going to get responses to this question. But is Hunt Showdown in any way relatable to Tarkov?
Yeah, it's just obviously, like, one of the big things about Tarkov is they like that all the guns are modern and all the modifications and stuff, they're all real things. But Hunt Showdown, there is crossover because it is an extraction shooter, but it's more like leaning into fantasy and Victorian era stuff. Yeah, but I love that game. But yeah, it's definitely a different feel to it.
Dude, I don't know what they do. It would, it would. Yeah, I don't know what they do, because it also came like a surprise, right? Was there even rumors this was happening?
There was an interview with him a couple of weeks ago where he said one thing that took me by surprise a little bit. I don't know if a lot of people caught on to it, but he was having this interview with a streamer called Pastilli. He's like one of those Tarkov streamers, and he did say a new edition is coming out because the Edge of Darkness edition was limited and nobody can get it anymore. So he's like, is there going to be a new edition that people can get that gives them similar perks? And he's like, yeah, it's going to be better. That's what he said. And then they left it at that. And I was like, whoa, okay, you can't have anything better than the limited edition Founders Pack, right? But I guess not a lot of people paid attention to that. So, but he also downplayed stuff. He's like, yeah, we're gonna add some cosmetics and shit. So,
yeah. Terrence says, did you guys go through blah 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 report? Console sales down? No, we've talked about it many times though. But I think overall, everybody who follows the market considers console market stagnant, if not going down. I don't know. One of the things I saw was they were saying that for younger people, consoles are the lowest purchase desire out of everything, including handheld Windows devices.
Gen Z or something.
Yeah, I think it was. I always don't like to say Gen Z because obviously age doesn't magically make you think something else. Like you're 17 and a half, and so therefore you've suddenly changed your thought process. But yeah, it indicates the competition's there everywhere. Windows handhelds are very good devices for some things. Then you have Switch, and you have other. And Microsoft sent out a survey recently to many people asking them questions about, are you happy with current handhelds? How do you play it? What are your thoughts on Windows and Microsoft and how they've done? What are your thoughts on these kind a new handheld that did the typical like Survey Monkey kind of stuff? But I think for the most part, also PCs are easier to get into now. Putting together PCs when I did it was a drawn out affair. It was it was drawn out in all ways, and it's become just so much easier. And there's PCs you can buy that are competent and well put together, and so it's the desire to jump in. And then now we have you've got tablets and all that kind of stuff, so there's just a lot of competition in the market. I can see consoles.
That's all the kids like favorite content creators and streamers are using PC and stuff.
Not only that, dude, something else that you just mentioned, a lot of gamers that I know have 2 monitors, and if you're on a console, you can't stream to Discord unless you go through certain steps. First, there's certain things you have to do. And let's say you want to watch a streamer while you're playing, or you want to multitasking. That was sort of almost not removed from the new consoles, but it was certainly dumbed down a bit. Because I don't know if you remember, the Xbox had like the ability to do like picture-in-picture kind of stuff and some wonky shit.
This is what I use.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, this is what 100%. I use to be able to watch something while I play on my 100%. Console, yeah.
A simple wire on your PC will do 90%.
Just a splitter.
So I can see it. I can see that the people I talk to, they like consoles because they're cheaper. They can get, a good deal of games. Game Pass does help. That kind of stuff helps. PlayStation Plus helps. But at the same time, when they are looking at PCs, even the entry bar for Windows, whether I like it or not, because I certainly don't. Some of the stuff I don't like is easier to get into for the most part. And so just definitely and they're smarter. Kids are learning, like the cool thing is to learn how to put together a PC, I had to read a book.
Mm-hmm.
And now there's a couple-minute video that says, okay, here's how you do a PCI slot card. Here's how you do this. Don't put the card here. You're going to get 4 times. Put it here. You'll get 16. Blah, blah, blah. The stuff that you could miss quite easily is now available quite easily, and it's available. Yeah, and a lot of people maybe have an iPhone and they already know what swiping is the same as alt tabbing, or they know this or that, and they can translate it easier. So I can see it dropping. I think console market needs to also offer something that right now they're not offering. I don't know what that is, but I do think consoles they've always been expensive, but I feel like with the pros and the way and all the special editions and stuff, I think it's getting muddy. And it's been muddy for the last maybe 2 gens, but it's getting muddier. It's like Scorpio, PS4 Pro, PS5 Pro, Xbox Series S and X. I mean, it's weird to have a gen where you have one system, one handheld system, and 2 systems, and the Series S sells way more than the X. And that also shows that it's like performance, what's good enough for some people.
Yeah,
it might not be as much as we think it is. And so, I don't know, man. I get it. I understand why people are looking at PCs. I mean, little box PCs that you can get, they cost twice as much, but they'll run games at, if you want 60 or ability to adjust. I think that's the other thing.
That's every a big game thing.
I think a lot of people just want every game to have a quality and a performance mode, and whatever the switches to 30 are, most I probably will go to 60, I think. And that would be one bonus from the consoles. But yeah, you can't interact socially on them. And dude, I don't know anybody who is not talking, streaming, and texting, or not texting, but Discording or tweeting in our group ever. So when we go into chat, there'll be 20 people playing Dragon's Dogma. 10 were streaming, but they were also talking to their wives. They were doing all the stuff you can do on a PC. And I think consoles are difficult for that. You can't do a lot on a console. I mean, they've tried to add stuff, but it's not really there.
It just feels also it's lacking culture. Before, I feel like it had a lot more culture. Like Xbox Live had a lot more culture. And
even if it was a terrible toxic culture, there was a culture.
Hey man, it was awesome. Yeah, no, but it just felt more community. Like right now, all I see is console warriors and people in their bubbles, obviously, about trophies and shit like that. But I don't see. I don't know. Xbox Live, it felt like a whole world. You went into Xbox Live and it felt like there were people there you could meet through games, and I don't feel like a lot of people do that anymore.
No, and
I don't
not
feel
only
like
that,
a lot of people go into terrorist hunts with randoms and meet them and.
Right, or they turn off their voice chat and go to Discord and use that. And then, Sony owns a part of Discord or invested in them. I can't remember what that, but they don't even have the proper streaming yet for PlayStation to Discord. Like, you're sitting there going, how are you not there yet? Xbox is there with, you can do some sign-ins. I've seen people streaming it. I haven't had to do that because I just use what you use. I use a splitter. But there's these steps that would meet people halfway, and the consoles have not moved forward very far when it comes to all of those other features. I mean, I know PlayStation has the guides or whatever, the little tabs at the bottom. That kind of stuff isn't interactive, and people want interactivity. It just seems like to me for a large number of people. Even though we do have people go into stream and for whatever reason mute themselves. And I know you did one time. I'm not teasing you about the Red Dead, but I'm saying I'll see people, and we're actually sending an alert in our Discord saying, that's not necessarily what those are for. It's not for you to like close off and not talk to anybody and just stream. You sort of need to engage and that kind of stuff. But I hate this. I said engage. I fucking hate that word, but you know what I mean.
Okay, engage. Yeah.
Oh man, Nokia Engage, only game with I think the only system in the world with a Rifts game on it. Flexa Mecha says Xbox Live in the 360 days was a Wild West. Terrence says, man. Oh, this is another good point Terrence just brought up. I know lots of kids who just play League of Legends on their phones or Fortnite on their phone. They don't want to buy a console. But the other part of that is that those are available on PC. And so the big popular games on PC that are free are a huge enticer.
Huge.
Dude, Denovan in our chat, I know him in real life. He's got 2 or 3 kids, and he's got them all PCs. They're in the room so he can see what they're doing, because they're young. But they don't have consoles. They may have a console, but they have PCs, cheap ones, and they're there to run the questionable game,
and
Roblox,
things like World of Warcraft,
but Minecraft and stuff. But let's be honest, the Roblox
those
needs to go.
Those games you don't even need to. You can pay less than a console to run those games, like League and
right.
And
you can get
WoW.
a Windows 11 HDMI thumbstick and probably run 1 or 2 of those, if not stream them from GeForce Now or something. That's
why those games really took off, man.
Yeah, I mean, Fortnite alone, I mean, I know it's on console, but I'm just saying that the social part and all that kind of stuff is just, I think people jump into they see the PC stuff.
Fortnite is a big thing as well. Like I see with kids, like my brother's friends and stuff. It's like they started on the Switch. It's like, oh, I really enjoying Fortnite, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna play on PlayStation, and now they're like, oh my god, I want to play on PC now. Yeah, so that's also causing them to change.
Yeah, I mean, I could be wrong on that. I am wrong, but I'm going to say it anyway. The consoles now are expensive enough that the delta between a low-level PC and the console is close enough I can see a parent deciding the utility of a PC makes more sense than
school and stuff too.
Yeah, well, true. Yeah, because when a kid gets old enough to play on a PC, they're probably, at the age to where they can work that. They're probably doing schoolwork. It makes sense.
I could imagine now school, like you would need a laptop for school now, right? I would imagine you need a laptop.
Yeah, I think our schools have computers for all the kids.
Yeah.
Eternal's saying the one big issue he has, he says, I don't care about console wars or PC elitism, but consoles are more affordable as far as briefly being able to play the latest games at a lower price and focused on gaming, no less distracting when it comes to maintenance. Yeah, maintenance on the PC is definitely a problem. Oh, Jake Brown says, Xbox Series S are the parents' console. Yeah, the number of people I know who own an S and are very happy is insanely high. And they don't care about, I mean, even in our, we're a price-based Discord, but it's like people in there's a huge number of people who are playing on S, and I won't even know until, they'll be streaming it because I've got it at 1080p. It's not going higher. And, we're watching streams, and suddenly I'm like, oh, what are you on? They're, oh, the S, man. And there's a lot of people who use it at minimum as a second console. Compared to, or PC primary, and then console secondary, especially plus back when Game Pass made more sense on console. Go ahead.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see, apparently Microsoft is also trying to, bridge the gap between console and PC with their newer, I think their next gen is going to be more, closer to PC, especially adding Steam and all that stuff, and having Steam sales on Xbox, and just having it be like a Windows operating system, but on a smaller...
I'm just going to say the honest truth, man. Cool. I love PlayStation games. I love Nintendo games. TurboGrafx 16. I've grown up with all of them.
Same.
Xbox. But it does make... when Microsoft has made some steps that aren't necessarily happy for people, aren't necessarily like the loved ones. But when I look at what steps they're making, and then I start looking at where, like, these surveys, these huge reports about everything is going, I'm like, I do start to understand... the idea of being first and making some of these changes now versus later, and versus, versus or like Sony saying, oh, we're only doing this and then switching. Oh, cloud's not real gaming. Here we have cloud, which makes sense. Companies should change their idea. It just seems like maybe one company has so much money they can be first on some of this stuff. I don't know if it'll work out, but some of the, I mean, when you see the PlayStation, when you see the games on Xbox selling on PlayStation as well as they do, you start looking at it going, when Nintendo Switch comes out, I just have this weird feeling that people are going to be quite surprised by what games are available day one, or pretty quickly on a Switch 2 that you may not assume would be available there. And you start seeing these companies saying, we're just going to make stuff.
They're just gearing towards...
MLB The Show is a Sony developed, and that's on Xbox. It's like, there's testing going
gearing
on.
towards multi-platform before the Switch 2 coming out is very suspect.
That's a pretty smart move, because that's a really smart, like, it does make sense, and even Nintendo delayed their little direct thing for that podcast. At least that was the big story about it, was that they, which makes sense. Like, there's certain things I think that are going on that you're just going to see a lot more. What would the term be? Consolidate? Maybe not consolidation. The new systems being Windows more like or whatever, that's fine. I just don't want to see Windows start menu on my Xbox.
No,
right?
Please no.
You know what I mean?
Like being able to buy any game on Steam, stuff like that would be really cool.
And have it just generically
But then again, you gotta
work.
ask, like, are we gonna have port issues? Are we gonna have port issues on console now?
Well, they turned on a bunch of games.
Our console's gonna be modular.
Keyboards can work on some games now. They've added more here recently for games working on the Xbox, on cloud at least. I see what you're saying. Yeah. Dude, I don't know, man. We live in a weird world with cloud and all that kind of stuff too. Like, where there's people getting into it I never thought would. Where, like, Jay Reaper was a console man for, like, I don't know, forever. And then I think it was like 2 months ago, he just asked me one day, he's like, well, what is the cloud? I walked him through it, and he played the cloud on the Xbox through the browser. And he was like, are you shitting me? And then he got his old Mac and plugged it in and got GeForce and was like, what the have I been doing? And he's not going to be playing Call of Duty multiplayer. That's not what it's for. It's for, you could do that. I've seen people get number one many times, but I don't think a normal player would. There's all this stuff coming together that's just pretty crazy. It's exciting, but I know for people who are old style, it threatens them. As a console fan, it threatens console fans, because the idea that things are going to be, I mean, dude, I still just heard somebody complain that Sony games are on play, or that PlayStation games are on PC, and I'm all, I mean, I don't see the negative there, especially because it's a year or two later. Like, it's not going to stop me from buying the PlayStation version to play it. It won't either, by the way.
I'm just trying to think of, like, the disadvantage.
They feel that,
is it because they put money in something expecting, like, exclusivity?
Right, and they feel that no matter, and at least these people I'm talking to, not everybody believes this, but they were saying that no matter what, even 2 years down the road, if it is on the PC, it removes some kind of worth from the PlayStation. It removes worth from it. And to me, that is not correct. Or at least in my brain, that does not compute. That,
of course not.
To me, the use of the PlayStation is day one. And for 2 years, the utility of the PlayStation would be your that exclusive. And then it goes to whatever, it goes to your PC. And it's like, that seems like you're not losing out on anything. Because if you haven't played it for 2 years, then what does that exclusivity even mean to you in the first place?
Yeah,
it means nothing.
Yeah.
But talking to chat. Let's talk to chat. Okay, chat. I'm going to scroll up. Steven says it's highly likely the next Xbox is simply a Windows-based PC with a single hardware architecture. I mean, it's pretty close now, but yeah.
That would be cool, man. I would like that.
Xbox. Oh, yeah. I read the Wild West. Let's go here. Eternal says, I get sick of the upkeep on PC with the rampant cheating online. You know what? I'll agree with that. There's more cheating, obviously, on PC, and I think that I think that's absolutely fair. That's a good point. Kulabon says, my 8-year-old daughter plays Roblox on her tablet, and that thing has 2 gigabytes of RAM. First of all, how dare you let her play Roblox? I'm just joking, man. Roblox has such a weird thing to me, but I absolutely get it. Let's see. MLB The Show is on Xbox because MLB demanded it. Yes, indeed. Flex it, but it is on there. Like, unless you care about exactly how it got on there, yeah, it's not going to matter. Flexing says, remember when Xbox tried to make it look like a Windows phone? Remember when Xbox tried to make it look like a Windows phone? What does he mean?
What's Windows, Android?
I think he means the tabs on the Xbox, the Windows, the fucking stupid screens that you get on the OS, maybe? Because that definitely is more Windows-like, and I hate it.
I hate it. Yeah. Is it the Is it the avatar stuff or?
Well, that too, the avatar stuff. But what I mean
that
is when they switch to tiles, they call it tiles,
tiles,
where it looks like those colored
no.
tiles. I hate that.
Gotta go back to blades, man.
Go back to blades. Okay, come on. Maybe. Kulabon says, I mean, a modular console would make more sense than a mid-gen refresh with a $100 price increase. Yeah, it would be pretty... It's not going to happen, but Absy and I've joked about, it looks like a box.
Effective for us.
It looks like a box, but there's a tab at the back, right?
Yeah.
And you go, boop, and then it takes out the graphics card. Yeah.
New CPU. Oh.
Jake Brown says, I've used cloud more for casual gaming when friends come over and I don't want to wait to install to play something.
Oh,
Very
that's
true.
A good point.
Very
that's
true.
A good point.
I got to admit, dude, I have now got to the point where once in a while, if there is a speed issue or I just want to play a game, I have gone to GeForce Now and been like, all right, I'm playing Assassin's Creed on this.
You don't have to wait to download. Yeah.
We all have that. Well, not only that, but see, bandwidth caps... I feel like at a high bit rate, you're going to eat up a bandwidth cap faster than downloading the game, right? So let's say the game's 80 gigabytes. If you have it cranked, but it'd probably take a lot of hours. So I could see people looking at it and being like, yeah, I'm just going to stream this game, and worry about it later. The UI looked like a window. Yeah, I think that's what he's talking about. Abbreviated review says hot swappable GPU. Well, maybe not hot swap. Oh, okay. I think hot swappable will scare the shit out of me, but I think it just means switch. Eternal says I read Microsoft's been working on glass storage that could finally make ransomware attacks impossible in the data center and hyperscalers, but the caveat is only Azure customers will benefit. Yeah, well, that'd be a force multiplier for getting people to do Azure stuff, but that's the way it works with companies. NC says it was Windows 8 with tiles, the one everyone hated, and the Xbox now, unfortunately. Cantankerous says, I use xCloud on the Series X for my weekend co-op gaming sessions with wife and friends. Yeah, that's what Jay was doing. It was weird because it was cool. I hadn't talked to him about it in a while, and then when he set it up and he came back in and he just couldn't shut up about it because he was like, oh my God, I can play this game. I can play this game. And then he went to Steam and he bought some games, and then he bought like a Humble Bundle, and he was like, are you kidding? Because you still have to buy them. Unless they're free, you still have to buy them on GeForce, obviously, unless they're one of the games that they offer for a free weekend or whatever deals they have. But yeah, it's awesome stuff. One day I'll get Absy to admit that but one day I'll get Absy to buy a handheld. It'll happen. At some point.
One day.
When Legion 2. Better. When the battery... Hey, 2 new types of batteries. Oxygen reactive, which sounds dangerous as shit because, oxygen's everywhere. That seems dangerous. But the new one is calcium. We were looking at that tech last night. There are 3 different... China, America, India, possibly. I think I might be wrong on India, are testing a calcium battery because not only is it obviously more prevalent than all the chemicals used in the others, but it has a deeper cell. So the amount of charge in a smaller space, and it doesn't require the box-style battery. It can be in a form factor. So... that would be pretty cool to see.
Oh, that's cool.
We do need a new battery style.
It doesn't have to be like a straight rectangle.
Right. Dude, I need that for everything.
No, honestly, this is what's going to happen, man.
Go ahead.
I'm going to be like either laying in bed one day or traveling or something and I'm just going to be like, hey, wouldn't it be nice to have a handheld? And then I'm going to go on Amazon and buy a Legion or something. That's probably how it's going to happen. I'm not going to sugarcoat it, okay? I'm going to see a need and I'm going to fulfill that need.
I'll make you think there's a need. I'll be like a company. I'm just joking. Cantankerous says, I don't want to spend...
because you always go like, hey, I'm laying down in bed now, playing on my handheld. And it always makes me go like, oh.
But here's the thing, and I'll tell you straight up. You buy the Claw, you put the 360 controller on there, and you've got the same thing. So you don't need to buy a handheld. You can, if we're talking streaming games, you can stream from your PC or GeForce, whatever, onto a $15 Claw, and your already owned controller, and be just as comfortable and not have to worry about updates.
Tech excites me,
I know, it excites me too. Cantankerous says, I don't want to spend the extra use GeForce Now. Isn't it like $45 for 3 months along with having to buy games? There's 4 levels to GeForce Now, including a free one, but you have to wait for queues. But yeah, you'd have to go check. But yeah, well worth it, at least for me. But there are different levels. I think Jay, in fact, did a free level at first. It's like you can do an hour at 1080p or something, which isn't bad when you're doing a streaming game. You can do 4K later if you buy it. Let's see. Consoles used to be the only way to access 3D gaming. I mean, yeah.
What?
I don't know what that means. Consoles used to be the only way to access 3D gaming.
Before,
Eternal
like,
says, "I'm." Oh, go ahead. No, what we said.
Was there a PC always? I mean,
Yeah,
I
felt like PC always
they
had
wanted
that.
to bring an arcade to the homes, so they made home consoles because people didn't want to go to.
Oh,
or like
he just says the easiest way, and that's right. Yeah,
oh,
the
yeah,
easiest
of
way.
course.
Not the only.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Soulskeeper says, what makes you like the Legion more compared to the Steam Deck? Its build quality is way better. Its build quality is weirdly good for a handheld. I like the larger screen. Probably one of the biggest parts is the larger screen.
Better performance, right?
Yeah, it's got better performance at some reses because you have to, like that APU, you have to sort of make caveats for but you can also, it's Windows, so you can run any Windows, so lossless, all these kind of weird little programs I like to run to improve things, and then mods, all that kind of stuff you can run, download and run through there. You can do a lot of that on the Steam Deck, which is nice. But
on Steam, I have this whole category, the Indie Delights category, and even some of the roguelike, which I just don't play on my desktop because I sit on here and I'm like, I want to play something crazy, like graphically, like Horizon or whatever. So I do. There are a lot of games that would benefit from me having a handheld. I'd play all these, 2D games and shit.
Yeah, I think like everything, the console fits a demographic right now that might be shrinking or not growing. PC fits a demographic, and the Windows devices. I would say for me, the Windows devices versus my Steam Deck, there's no comparison. But also, I think with the Windows devices, one of the things that I do like is because I do want to run extra programs. I do want to, do particular things on it. And the Steam Deck has done huge steps, huge leaps in what you can do on it. But for a long time, there was many things I wanted to do you couldn't do. They weren't compatible or what have you. The OLED screen is a weird one, man, because if I'm playing in a dark room, the OLED's going to matter more. I never play in a dark room. And so I do want a slightly brighter screen. And there's something going on with some of these screens that are pretty phenomenal, like a bonus to these screens that's blown me away. For example, the G Cloud screen is phenomenal for non-OLED. Like, it blows me away. Legion's really nice and bright, but I still think that screen's a little bit better. But it's also a little bit tinier, and you know how that works. It's like sometimes just the size difference can make it look different. But OLED, one thing I like about OLEDs is the battery. It seems like they're less, they don't take as much battery. And that's the big thing. It all comes back to battery. If you have a more performant system, great. But if you still have a battery to worry about, if you there's that kind. Even
more
with Steam Deck,
performance means less time to play. Yeah.
Right, and you want exactly. And I do charge it while I'm playing on my, with a battery pack or what have you. I charge it while playing. I charge the Steam Deck. Those kind of things, I just want to go away. I want them to fix the battery tech for all these devices, and I don't know where that is yet. Like, it would be nice, the bigger the battery, the more it weighs, and you're holding it. And then if you want to play it, because let's say the better they get graphically, the better the screens get, the better the RAM gets, the better the APUs get, you're still holding a device in your hand. And then if you want to play it longer because it's better, then it's more uncomfortable if it weighs more. So there's this thing, you're literally, the positive is where you're aiming the negative. It's like you cannot get out of that negative. That's why, dude, for a small amount of time, the Switch was my favorite. It was so light. And the Satisfy controllers, not the Joy-Cons. See, that's the other thing. None of these are perfect. But when you got the Satisfy controllers, I remember just being like, are you shitting me? It's so comfortable. It was nice, super light. Like, that's the difference between the Legion and the Switch. The Switch is like that thin, and the Legion's a chunky boy. Like, do I notice it now? No, but when you first get it, you're like, oh. Let's see. What else do we have here? The handhelds are really good for 360 era games in the backlog. They still look good, but are still old enough to run. Yeah, I've done a lot of different stuff on those. Been nice to play the older games. Steve says you can install Windows on the Steam Deck and then do anything. That's pretty convoluted. Yeah. I think that's, I would definitely not get a ROG. I would wait. ROG Ally 2 is coming. Would in no way, shape, or form suggest the ROG, especially because even now they're talking about some kind of, you'll have to go look at their at the websites in the news, but I think they're even offering some people money or something. Amudski was telling me some weird thing because of the burned up SD card bullshit. I would not mess with a ROG no matter what. That was a dude, I bought an Asus device and I should have known. I just should have known, man. I've had such bad luck with Asus devices. Do you own anything Asus?
Really?
Asus?
I had a laptop, ROG laptop back in
How'd that do for you?
2013. It lasted me until 2015.
Not bad. And then you got a Legion. You replaced it with a Lenovo.
No,
whatever.
and then I bought a desktop. I built a desktop in 2015. Right now, my laptop is Lenovo, and it's fucking phenomenal. The Lenovo Legion laptop is amazing, dude. It's so good. What did I have other stuff that's Asus? I think I had like a monitor at some point.
I hear the new Legion is a bit bulky and heavy, so it's better for gaming on a TV. No. It is bulkier and heavier, but it's not like you're magically doing curls with a 20-pound set. But it is a couple grams more. I think that's one of the things that even I will say it's a chunky boy, but it's certainly, you don't notice it anymore.
And the Lenovo support is phenomenal.
Oh, dude, their support's ridiculous. I wish they'd update their APU driver more often. But
yeah,
the fucking, you can sideload if you want. I don't like that because that's one more convoluted step. But their support is pretty phenomenal. Yeah, it's especially
dude,
compared
it feels
to like
Asus. I have a
Asus.
dude that's like literally just helping me out.
He's just helping Absy.
He's
just
always
like,
there, man.
You call in and he's just sitting back. He's like, "Sup, Absy? What are you doing? Hey, man, did you enjoy Horizon?" You're like, "I did, but I gotta look." Yeah, it's awesome.
I had issues with my initial laptop, and they tried replacing stuff, and then when all else failed, they just replaced the whole laptop. And it was just so easy.
Yeah, I think that would be the other thing I'd love to see is improvements there on the customer service for everybody to have a minimum, including Sony with returns, which has always been a sort of their dark spot is their customer service.
No.
It'd be nice to get these, stepped up. But because I'm a bigger dude, I can hold the Legion. No, it's not. My wife plays Legion all the time. She's like 105 pounds. That would be awesome though. If I'm like, "Hey, Absy, I'm going to play the Legion, a rock back." Ooh.
A gaming console made for beefcakes.
It's just the Xbox Series X with the LCD on it, and I'm holding it going, this thing is wonderful. Buttons everywhere. To move on from all of that tech talk for a bit, anything amazing been going on in life in general? Anything you're excited about? Shows, movies, books, music, tech, analog stuff. I got a chess set. Got gifted a chess set, which is pretty phenomenal. Yeah, Lord of the Rings.
Man, my grandpa used to give me chess sets, man. I miss those.
I love looking at it and pretending I'm still good at chess. That's as far as I get. So it's set up, and I'm like, dude, I remember when I was really good at chess, and then I walk away from it. But it looks sweet, man. Yeah, sweet.
I love like actual analog, just full on. I don't, it's way better than playing online. Like, oh my god, this one, Monopolist Greek Archers. No, not this one. I'm looking for Lord of the Rings chess sets. Oh wow, this one looks insane.
This was hand carved.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, pretty sweet. And then
really, really cool.
We played board games this last weekend. We didn't do Icarus, which is like one of my favorites, but we did one called not Uncharted, something. It's basically like a generic battle game where you go against a raid boss kind of stuff. Board game. Okay. So you're all working together.
I've seen a lot of board games that are like PvE. How does that work?
PvE usually means they take very specific steps, and I'll explain it to you. Closest player gets attacked. Closest player that's missing, or closest player that's ranged gets attacked first. There's like almost steps.
So there's still like a competitive aspect between players, or
there can be. Yeah, most of them will have a point system. So at the end, you can say I won. Okay. Oh, that's the other one we played. It's a Wonderful World, and it's what's called it's a draft game. So every single turn, everybody goes at the same time, and you're trying to build a star civilization. Ooh, and whatever card you put down gets you like points in tech or building, and then whoever has the most at the end. You count up, and you have what's crazy is they do these crazy multipliers. So every card is like a magic card. So it'll have an icon at the lower right, and it'll say times this. So when you win, or when you get done after 6 turns, nobody wins during the 6 turns. You win at the end. And so you build your Star Empire, and then when you're done, everybody has these cards. You separate, start counting it up, and it's pretty cool because you'll think I thought I won each time. I mean, I thought I kicked ass, and I did during the game. I was doing great. But then when we did the multipliers, I was by far the lowest, ridiculously low. I think I had like 58 points, and the next in line was like 128. I'd played like completely wrong. But it was cool because everybody gets to go at the same time, and you can play alone and not look at what everybody's doing. Or you can play and look. And obviously, they were looking, and I wasn't. I was playing to my hand, and I'm fictional, so I'm like, okay, I'm the Aztec spacefarers. I'm going to build Aztec-looking stuff like blah, blah, blah.
Like
and they were doing the proper shit. Yeah, so when we got done, I was like, yeah, man, I got a crazy cool...
They were playing the numbers game.
Dude, it was bad. I mean, ruinous how horribly I scored, but it was awesome. It was easy enough that every single person could get it, and it's fast. It was like 7 turns was everybody just playing one card, doing building, and there's some arguments over stuff because it's a smaller board and we have a lot of people. So one person was having to give pieces to the other person all the time. And it always starts out with everybody nice. Everybody's highly caffeinated. Everybody's fed. So the first hour, sure, what do you need? Blah, 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 sure. And then after a while, they're trying to do their own game, and they get mixed up because they're handing items to the other player. And then they're like, wait, did I do my step yet? And so you get that thing where it's like it got tense at the end where people are like, okay, I just need to concentrate, because they want to win. Yeah. And that was more of a table size thing, but that game was awesome. It doesn't beat Icarus. Icarus is probably my favorite board game I've ever played.
Is Icarus the same one that there's a video game of?
No. Icarus is one where it's a little bit role-playing, but you build everybody chooses what they want to do. You basically build your empire. So like our first empire was an ancient Aztec empire with a giant guardian that would circle it to protect them, but we were and we make all this up. We decided we were being invaded by seafarer races. So what you do is it's all about the fall of a civilization. So you take like 10 steps to build it. What's your race? What's one unique thing? What's one horrible flaw? So we were like blood sacrifices was a horrible flaw, and we were running out of slaves, or we were running out of whatever we were using for blood sacrifices. Then everybody takes on a role like governor, sheriff, blah blah blah, and then you all put a goal out, but there's always not enough dice. Everybody has a dice, and you vote for what you want to pass, and you can sort of role play that. But every time it comes to your goal, you roll whatever dice are on your card, and if you don't get building, if you don't succeed, you put a dice on another dice and then another dice, so you get a dice tower. And so whenever the dice tower falls is when your civilization falls. So you put one dice down. So you're trying to make sure you don't put a bunch of dice up and that your dice are good when it's your turn to roll dice.
So they don't topple over.
So they don't topple over. And so you'll have people change, and then somebody may have a card that says you're actually the bad guy and you're trying to ruin somebody else, and they so they'll vote for other things, but you're like, but you're the sheriff. Why wouldn't you want this law to pass?
That's cool.
But it's very narrative driven. But what's weird is every single person got into it, and I have people who are not RPG fans. They're not fans of D&D or anything. But even the example race that this other group did on YouTube was a manta ray with an air gravity bubble around them, and the back of the manta ray had geysers of oxygen, so that's how they lived on the back of this space going, and it was traveling between planets. And their weakness was like meteorites that would hit them because they were traveling fast. And just weird shit, because you can make anything really cool up. It's awesome.
That's like Stellaris in a way.
Yeah, but it's the role-playing part of it. Yeah, it was was really enjoyable to play. You don't get a chance to do board games, though, do you?
Man, I really want to. I'm trying to find... There are a lot of groups that do them. And I was starting a group back in Canada. My friend owned like a bunch of them, and he had like Gloomhaven and a bunch of others, and there was one we were about to play, which was like a sci-fi horror survival one, which I was very excited for, but it never panned out because it was, I don't know, I feel like these things fall apart a lot where people are like, okay, we have a date and time, but something came up.
Yep.
So.
And it's happened with my RPG group. We started out, nobody was married, nobody had kids. Denovan, I've known for 25 years, Cadiz for longer, and you get that thing where you put it all together, your plan is together, and then, I have a sick dog or whatever, and it's the entire plan. But for example, he has kids come over every other weekend. He has shared custody. And so, and then his wife has her kids that come over on opposite ones. I can't remember, but it's this weird thing. So you have like one weekend, and then I'm like, well, I don't want to take their one weekend, their one weekend that they might be alone and be able to do stuff. But we'll plan it, and COVID came up, and that ruined it for like 3 months. But I will tell you, it's worth it, man. Like, there's something about getting a group together. The only thing is arguments. We don't have very many, but the competitive element you were talking about, I actually don't love competitive elements in my board games that are direct. If they're passive, like the points, narrative. I'm fine. They're narrative, I'm fine. I don't like it because no matter how somebody says they aren't competitive, the most competitive people are the people who say they aren't. It always happens that way. So I'll get people together and they'll be like, I'm not competitive. And within 30 minutes of the game, I see them hoarding something. And I'm like, that person's for sure competitive. It's just like when somebody says, I don't worry about me as a driver. I worry about everybody else. I'm like, that person is dangerous as shit. That person is going to get everybody killed because there's no self-awareness. But yeah, we get a group together. You have to get like-minded people. I'm sure there's board game groups, but then it's new people you don't know. Yeah. And that's weird.
It's hit or miss.
And your dad, he's a tech freak. He's not a board game guy, right?
Yeah, he wasn't. No, he likes screens. He likes glued on screens.
Yeah. What about your friend? You said when you moved there's one friend you play games with a lot in real life. Is that person?
Oh, I think he'd be down. Yeah, I'll ask him. He likes social stuff for sure.
Because there's a lot of 2-player games that are co-op. People... I mean, the World of Warcraft one has raid bosses, that you don't even have to play. You build your World of Warcraft character, and you go against a raid boss.
Like 4 people going for sure. I think I can convince them. I think it'll be cool. Maybe that'll be my mission for next week.
Let's see. T Monk says the only time it was kind of easy for my group was right after quarantine because everybody was happy for social interaction. That lasted 6 months and then back to the norm. Yeah. I feel that. I definitely feel it, even for me, where I'm like, man, it's great to see everybody. All right. Well, thanks for coming. Bye-bye. No, I never want to send them out, but I definitely get the point of, celebrating getting to see people and then it going away. What else do we have? Any other stuff? Music you've been listening to?
Music? I've been listening to a lot of Fallout Radio. I have a whole playlist of 570 songs or something, and it's all Fallout.
How the hell did you say Fallout inspired and get all the Fallout inspired music? Or
there's like a I can send you the playlist. It's a playlist
you mean the Fallout Radio playlist, the one on YouTube? Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. And I've just been and so I got like this big guy, CEO from another company, you know what I mean? We're trying to talk about like starting something and talking about like business stuff, and he's older, obviously much older and stuff, and so I'm like, highbrow, have like 50s music playing and shit, and it's like, this is the music I like. So it was like, oh, very impressive, and he was like jamming to it and stuff.
And who was this? Your dad?
Taking him. No, it's a CEO from another company.
Your business. I gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, I took him from like another business that I was taking him to lunch and stuff. So, and I was just like playing 50s music and shit. So but yeah, that's what I've been listening to a lot. I've been addicted to it. Bingo, bango, bango, no. They've been stuck in my head a lot.
Man, I never would have thought I liked that music. I mean, I don't necessarily love it. I like Fallout-inspired stuff with the darker wording, where they're talking about radiation or whatever. I like those, but
yeah.
I still find myself jumping on mega projects and stuff, side projects. They're 2 YouTube channels run by the same guy, and all it is like, here's 7 mysteries or whatever. I do that on YouTube. But on YouTube music, I just don't do a lot of YouTube music. I don't listen. I have to see the video. I don't know why. But music on YouTube, when it's just, I like the laid back, ambient music on YouTube. But if I hear like a song, I find myself always searching for the video version, the visual part.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, I don't. It's very difficult for me to not have the video of something.
I like music, YouTube Music, like the app or the website is my favorite out of Spotify, out of all of them. It's my go-to. I like
Dude, I haven't opened Spotify other than to upload the podcast in ever. I mean, I don't even know if I've ever used it for anything. Joe Rogan, even, I was trying to use the YouTube site and I was trying to like get YouTube uploads of it. I don't know what it is about Spotify's setup, but I swear to God, I always had issues. It just never seemed to be exactly what I wanted. Yeah, I stick with YouTube.
Think YouTube Music. Premium is a good service overall. I'm not a shell or anything. Just kind of preface this. But for me, I can watch videos without having it up on my phone, for example, so I can listen to stuff while I'm working out. Blah blah blah. I can, no ads, and it gives me music, YouTube Music. So that's basically like Spotify. So it has all these things, and I guess when I watch videos with it, it supports. I don't know if it supports.
Oh, I'm sure it does. I'm sure it does the YouTube Premium or something, the support there.
Yeah.
With YouTube Music, what I'll do is turn on like the 10-hour, it'll be like 10-hour ambient music, because I'll usually be at that time be doing some other work or something like that. But I definitely like, I like that YouTube offers Premium. I know it doesn't, I don't think it offers as much as an ad or what have you, but it for sure is supporting them if you're listening on YouTube Music. YouTube Premium. Do you know what I don't do, though? YouTube TV. Don't do it. It's expensive as shit, man. Have you seen the price for YouTube TV? It's like $79 a month.
What the fuck? Like movies and TV shows and stuff?
Yeah, it's TV shows. It's like TV through. See, that's the thing. We went away from cable, and it's a straight. It is.
Oh my God.
But it's hyper expensive.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
God. YouTube. Well, there you go. I shouldn't even have said it.
Jesus.
But it's a disaster. Yeah,
but I assume it helps because there's ad revenue that YouTubers get. That's the main part of the revenue. And if you have YouTube Premium, you're not watching ads. So I assume they factor that in, like, your viewer use YouTube Premium, we have to pay you in some way, right?
Yeah, no, I see when I go into YouTube, when I go into videos, I'll see the payment for watch ads, I'll see the payment for super chats, and then I'll see the payment for YouTube Premium. It's definitely added in there. They're definitely getting some for it. Yeah, Premiums, I've owned Premium for a long time, but I one day was like, I'm going to check out YouTube TV. And I don't remember if they were offering me a free version or whatever. I had it for a little bit. And I was like, yeah, it's got some streaming, it's got some TV shows. It's got a lot of channels. And then I looked at the price and I was like, what? It's just massive. I don't even know if I was getting a quarter out of it. I canceled it right away. I wasn't aware.
Yeah.
Let's see. People are talking about, is YouTube TV different from Premium? Yeah, it's YouTube TV. It's like YouTube TV. It's expensive as hell. Hulu and Amazon Prime are better. Hulu is...
I have Prime.
I have both, and I got to tell you, fucking Hulu will play ads even if you have Premium. You'll be like, dude,
really?
I paid the max amount, and it's like you'll be sitting there and you'll be like, why is an ad running? And they've got, you know how it is. They always do that thing where they try to raise it. Like Amazon Prime was all, if you now want no ads, you have to pay a little bit more. It's like Tarkov, except they take baby steps. They take baby steps.
Yeah. Well, with YouTube Premium as well, you can do family memberships and be like Raj and do it through India. So like all of you are paying like $1 a year or some shit. I don't know. There's some crazy workarounds.
Reg cracks me up, man. Every time. That dude always has some
this
damn
guy's paying like 50
workaround.
cents a month, man.
Yeah. He's always got some workaround.
And he has the money for it. That's what makes it
I know. Well, that's why. One day I was joking about that with him. I'm like, I said something along those lines. I'm like, oh yeah, you know, that's why you've got the money for it or whatever. And he's like, no, I've got the money for it because I do all of those things. I don't think that's necessarily true, but I do. I mean, he is saving a boatload because he's always got some deal. I'll talk to him about, I don't even know anything. And he'll be like, actually, I do it through this, and then I go over here.
He probably still has Game Pass for like $50 a month or
I wouldn't doubt it. Didn't Game Pass drop the thing now, too, that says you can't load up on the $1 anymore? I think they passed a thing that says you can only like load up up to a certain amount now. Because, dude, there were people with, Game Pass for like 13 years. And it was just like,
dude, I paid $1 for Game Pass. I don't think I play that much on it. I test games with it and then buy the game if I like it usually, but I have it.
I would say with Game Pass I've definitely still bought games. Steam version sometimes, because I'm worried about the store. Sometimes.
Yeah, the store is wishy-washy. Yeah.
Currently, the store is telling me that I don't have premium on the same account that the app tells me I have premium, and it lets me buy premium again, even though it's the all premium ultimate. It's everything purchased through the website, in fact. But for whatever reason, I have this glitch that's always like, you don't have it. Yeah, YouTube TV offers its base plan for $72.99 per month. So first-time customers can get a promotional rate of $57. Yeah, I don't even know what it includes. I just thought the price was hilarious. Regardless, it may be absolutely worth it, but I was blown away by the price when it randomly popped up on my screen. I was like, I'm not doing that. But that's for U.S., maybe India. Maybe I should use a VPN and go through India, something like that.
Yeah, you should.
What else do we have before we wrap it up? There isn't much. The Starfield update. Talked about that. Talked about Tarkov. Talked about pretty much everything, I think. That might be it for us. Let me verify there isn't any more. Oh, I did miss a question. Nope, that was an old one. Make sure we didn't miss any. No, I think that's it for us. You'll never get a quest, right? I don't see you ever getting a quest. There's no reason to get a quest.
Maybe if I'm like, one day if I'm like, oh, some VR game comes out and it's like a game changer and I'm like, oh my God, I need the quest.
So what if it was, what do you want a sequel for? It's a shooter. It would have to be a shooter,
like
right?
Half-Life Alyx?
Right, but that's Valve, so that's why I was like, I meant another one. Yeah, that wasn't Valve. I'm trying to think if there's another shooter that you would like, if they said, okay.
Or like if they did like a massive, full,
body,
kind of like Skyrim, but
oh yeah, but made for VR,
full on. Yeah, I don't know, something like full. Just to give me a full, really good VR game, I guess. Yeah, good, just an open world sandbox. Everything's immersive, amazing quest, choice based, quality, amazing side quests, very good jiggle physics. No, I'm just kidding, but just a really, really good game on VR. Then maybe I'll get one.
Here's what would get me to get a quest after the ones for like testing and stuff. If it was like a Skyrim, and you can't figure out the weight of the swords, that's just not going to work. We're always going to have the wiggle attacks.
Wiggle, yeah.
If it incorporated full voice commands, full when you talk the parts, when you're able to do all that, like Dragon Natural Speaking does for Skyrim's mods, that kind of stuff would probably get me into it.
Yeah, like a reason to go VR versus Pancake.
Right, and it would be born into the Quest or into whatever device we're talking about when they fully get into that stuff where you can role play, that kind of thing. So because I've messed with Poker Stars, weirdly enough, on VR, and it looks amazing, and it's poker, and it's actually fun to play. It got me into poker, and I'm like looking at it, and I'm all, well, a lot of it's the playing the cards, but a lot of it is also interacting with the players around you. And then I played Skyrim VR and Fallout VR. They're awesome, but I want to see a real VR game. Like somebody, no one will do it because it's going to cost what, $200 million.
Return on investment isn't going to be that.
Return on investment, not at all. But it would be amazing if somebody did. If some millionaire won the lottery and was like, you know what, I love games. We're just going to make a role playing game, super in depth, fun to play role playing game. Be awesome.
Full on 100-hour experience.
Yeah, and I mean, and good graphics, right? Where it was like
amazing graphics, like real.
Well, not real, but where.
yeah, like close.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for sitting through this with us. That was 3 hours, 36 minutes of the Best Gaming Podcast on Wednesday. I mixed them together. West Gaming Podcast. Thanks to Abzi for coming up. Always sitting down, hanging out with us, talking about games on his Wednesday. Even though it's probably 1:30, 1 o'clock in the morning. It's 12 a.m. It's off by an hour.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you, everybody. If you get a chance, check out the Patreon. You can become a YouTube member and also join in. It helps the channel a lot. My dogs now realize I'm wrapping up the podcast. Peace out, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your week.